Oh, I didn't know.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our Glendale City Council workshop. This meeting is for council members to review and discuss important issues, projects, and future council meeting agenda items. It's a work-study session only and allows the council to hear input from city staff. No action will be taken at this workshop, and there will not be an opportunity for public comment. This meeting is streaming live on Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Glendale City Council workshop session for October 28th, 2025. This meeting is called to order. I'd like to note that the mayor absence is excused today, and I will conduct a roll call vote. Councilmember Baldenegro.
Here.
Councilmember Conchas.
Here.
Councilmember Guzman.
Here.
Councilmember Mullner. Do not see Councilmember Turner. Keep an eye out for him, and I am present. Thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda, Downtown Campus Reinvestment Project. Mr. Phelps.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Here to provide staff report is our city architect, Eddie Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good afternoon, everyone. This is on behalf of the entire team, update number 37. We are about a little over 6 months to go till we get to substantial completion. So I think more than anything that you'll see in today's presentation, the takeaway is the amount of site activity that's happening on the project site now. So the last time you saw a photo like this was back in August, and you can see that there's so much more work that's going on, the perimeter, the amphitheater. I know if you drive by the site frequently, you can see where all the barricades are up, and what's happening behind those barricades is equally important. But we also know that that also can present itself with some construction fatigue. I can tell you that we're working really hard right now on the site activities to drive some better turnover time with those activities on the perimeter, that we can open up those barricades sooner than later. But we're still going to require some patience along the way, so bear with us on that. Moving along, though, one of the things that you might notice on Glendale Avenue is the large fence that goes up. We're down to one lane heading west for quite some time now. Part of the reason for that has been all the curb and gutter work. And in this case, in this photograph, you see the bus lane that's being put together. That's being poured. This was about a week ago now. And all the curb and gutter work, and then some asphalt repair that needs to happen. We're rounding the corner with this work on Glendale Avenue, so we're hopefully in the next couple weeks, if not sooner, we'll be able to open up that lane again. The sooner the better, obviously, because we know that the holidays are coming up pretty quickly, but we get those two lanes open again, that'll really help traffic flow. But you can see that from the amount of work and primarily the safety of our crews that are out there working on the project, the fence had to be where it's been for all that period of time. So that's coming together. Just immediately adjacent to that bus lane, we're calling this the entry plaza area. So this is the view that you see from the main lobby looking to the parking garage. But if you're looking the opposite direction, this is where our citizens and constituents would enter the building from the west. So they would walk across an entry plaza that'll be built. What you're seeing in the foreground is the top of the existing tunnel. And so we're preparing that for waterproofing and another layer of concrete that goes on top of that creates the sidewalk and stairs and platform, etc. And then in the very far background of the picture, you'll see how our stairs are being cladded with the screen wall. And so that activity is really progressed quite well. It's almost done on both the garage and most likely substantially complete on the roof. So there's an example of some of the photographs here we have. The roof, this was taken when they first started putting in the screen walls enclosures about 3 or 4 weeks ago, if not maybe a little bit more than that. And the picture on the right was just about a week or so ago. So these do two things. One, they're providing some screening to the elements behind it, but they're also providing some transparency for security. In the case of the roof, it's not only helping to screen mechanical equipment, but at the same time it allows airflow. The reason they're designed this way to allow airflow to get through it and help with the equipment, so that we're maintaining that on the roof as well. So it's dual purpose, but it's an architectural element, and they're going up, and it's a very consistent theme in the design of the building. Site walls and grading activity are going on in the amphitheater. Big pile of dirt that you see to the right. A lot of that is because we are continuously regrading and moving dirt to not only prepare for footings and things on the site, but getting the walls done. Also, we had a lot of rain not too long ago, so we moved the dirt around a little bit to dry it out. And all this is going to continue to be in flow as we excavate to put site walls, and then we'll put this dirt back in where we need it. So for plantings, everything we need to get grade, that's all on site. So everything's there, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll get you some more updates on how the bowl is being constructed. Here's another example of some of the site walls going around the perimeter. So again, these are part of the barriers, or at least the limits of where circulation will be. So there'll be stairs put in between these, planters between these, ramps between these. So they're just the structural elements that create the form of the bowl. And then most recently, on the park side, just outside of the curved area for the bowl, we have another deck that we're going to be pouring, and I believe it's been poured as of this date. But essentially, this is a whole plaza piece that extends the original patio area or plaza area that was in the original design of the building, but we're extending it further. So this is essentially the new circulation path that takes you to the entrance of the building. Most importantly, just recently on the site has been Murphy Park. So this is an example of some of the demolition activities that are currently in progress. We've done the northeast corner, parts of the southwest area, and we're working our way around towards the northwest side here shortly, and we're doing it basically in quadrants. So not to worry, all the elements that was either benches or statue or the art components that were identified in early council meetings that we've had have been protected and removed off the site and being stored separately. But this is time now to just get in there and move stuff around, because we're trying to meet the same deadline as best we can with the completion of the building. Moving inside, I tell you, every day, every week goes by, there's so much more new things to see. So this is the first floor. You can see now that most of the production drywall is in place. We're working on the ceilings as we speak. This is the multi-purpose area that faces Glendale Avenue. So that right in front of that is the bus lane that we showed in an earlier photograph. Again, all the production drywall is there. We'll be concentrating on the ceiling stuff here shortly. On the fourth level, incidentally, the next few photographs are really indicative of what's going on, but the fourth floor is kind of the key example of how it's coming together in terms of the different parts and pieces. So we're getting millwork put in now. This is the break room area to the right. So all that will be, most of it's built in place now, but that's where the employee break room will be. So we'll have a couple refrigerators, microwaves, etc., tables and chairs. And then the picture on the left is the copy area. So on every floor, there's it's essentially a copy zone that's set up just like this, a little accent paint and some built-in millwork. Also, we're laying in ceilings. So we're getting a point now, we're getting very close now to dropping ceilings in the third and the fourth level. So gentleman there that you see is actually hanging the grid and measuring for tiles and everything, so we can, before you know it, you'll have an entire ceiling plane there. And this is an example of, you can see a few things already in the ceiling, but this is an example of how spacious it will be at the end of the day. We've talked about elevators in the past. We haven't really seen too many photographs to share with you, but this was just taken very quickly because we typically don't get into the elevator shafts as staff and employees, but we were able to work with the contractor on this one, and you can see how the shafts are built. There's a lot of railings, cables, etc. The picture on the right is the top of the cab. So the cabs are built, platforms are built, the railing guides are there, machinery is getting close. We're about a couple weeks out, if not a little bit more, from having these operational. And this is important because we'll use this from a construction standpoint, not necessarily just to move people. They're not going to be completely done until we're finished, but we want to be able to have conveyance vertically while we're still working on the building, because it'll come in really handy when we start to move furniture in towards the beginning of early next year. And then on roof and glazing activities on council chambers, we have completed that as far as the roof system goes. It's completely done now. There's some minor details and some flashing details and coping details that we're working on, but for the most part, everything has been completed. So that's your new roof system, new metal roof altogether. And I will say this, we learned over the past few weeks when we had all this rainstorm and water, the buildings, both the council and the main building, including the amphitheater, we did not have any water issues. This is really good, so no leaks. So we're really happy about that. Big push forward from where we were in the past, especially on council chambers where we suffered some leaks over the years on the corners. But we're really happy about that. What's really remaining on the exterior now is putting in the metal cladding that you see is missing on the top of the building right now. That work is forthcoming. So here we are. So in progress, we just highlighted quite a bit of this, but next month, we're going to continue on with more interior finishing throughout the floors. The mechanical system is working. We've actually have it activated now on 3 and 4, but next month we're going to hopefully get the level 1 and 2 going. We do that because we want to just make sure the building's humidity control is there. So when we start putting more finishes in, whether it's wood, carpet, any other materials, that they relax and we're able to accommodate and have them ease of installation. Another big activity that's happening as early as next week is we're going to be connecting the building to fiber and getting our network architecture set up so that we have an easy transition when we start to activate the building, both from a network standpoint and IT. Elevator number 3, which is the service elevator in the building, that's going to start next. So once they get done with the first 2 elevators that you saw in the photographs, they'll move to the 3rd elevator, which is south. And then the metal wall panels that I mentioned on the chamber. So we're still keeping the lights green on this one. We're working diligently and quickly, and every day, like I said, is new progress. But we do have a lot of work to do, and we're approaching the 6-month time clock here. So a lot to do between now and April. With that, that's your update.
Anybody have any questions? I don't know, whoever wants to go first. I don't know who was first. Councilmember Conchas.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I just had a question about our the flagpoles, and the reason is because I had someone talk to me at a meeting, a resident, about we used to have one of the tallest flagpoles in, I believe, the state of Arizona, but I haven't double checked that, so it could be just a fable or it could be truth, right? But where will the flagpoles and all of that be located? Will it be in the front entrance plaza?
Mayor, Council, or Council Member Conchas, I do have an update to share with you on the flagpole that's in Murphy Park. But I'll first start by answering the first part of your question. Right now, we scheduled to have 6 flagpoles, 3 for the City Hall and 3 for Council that are new. And they'll be placed respectively near their front entryway. So those are forthcoming. The flagpole that's the really tall one in Murphy Park has just been refurbished. So in the last couple weeks, the field ops team has managed a whole crew to go out there and just refresh the whole thing together. That work was completed, I believe, last Thursday. So the new cabling, hoisting system, painting, finial on top is all done. And so we were trying to get it done right as the rainstorms came. We couldn't set the crane. It was too wet to set the crane. So now we're completed with that, and it's just ready to receive a flag. So that's back in action again. But that would make a total of 7 flagpoles that are associated with the DCRP project.
Thank you so much. I'll be sure to relay the message.
Councilmember Valdenegro.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Probably about a month and a half ago or so, maybe even 2 months, there was construction is construction. You guys had to put up the fences and take away some parking in front of the library, and that created a huge fiasco. And immediately I got in touch with the business members, got in touch with me. We worked with Mr. Phelps. Mr. Phelps contact with you and the construction company. And I just want to say, when you guys were able to figure out a way to move the fences back, and we were told it was going to be 3 or 4 weeks, so it's not going to be forever. I think now we're on week 6, and in today's merchant meeting, I let them know that we're past what we were guaranteed, and we need to be very, very grateful that the construction company were able to work through that without having to slow down, do any kind of major delays or anything to that effect. So I did also at the meeting this morning said that may change tomorrow. It may change next week or next month. We don't know. But we need to be grateful that we were able to, with the city and Oakland Construction, figure out something, even if it's just temporary, until we can kind of get more of the message out there about the parking structure like that. So I wanted to just, if there are any Oakland Construction people listening and watching, thank you for everything you've done for the merchants to help us, even if we understand it was temporary. Construction, funerals, and emergencies, there's never a good time for any of them, but you just got to deal with them when we get them. And I just wanted to, it's one thing, you guys are always kind of getting hammered about all the inconvenience and this and that and the other, but we also need to celebrate the times when you really do help us, and sometimes we take them for granted, but what you did for those merchants was never taken for granted. They all appreciate it and want to say thank you. So
Anyone else? No? I do have one question, Mr. Garcia, as far as the network for the council chambers. I think I had asked about this long, but it was too early on, but are we going to have a 21st century ability for council members to call in or participate in the event they're not able, they're out of town on a family emergency or for whatever reason? But historically anyway, the delay, there's been quite a delay. Calling into a meeting is, and I guess Councilmember Mueller can attest to this, calling into a meeting is challenging because there's quite a delay between what you're saying and what we hear, and it gets really confusing. So I just wanted to ask if that's being addressed as we're setting up the council chambers for the future.
Vice Mayor, council members, we are addressing that particular criteria as well. It is in the design criteria. It's being met so far. I'm not hearing anything that changes that.
Very good, thank you. So, nothing else? Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Ms. Bauer, would you like to introduce item number 2?
Glendale Transportation Plan.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, here provides item number 2 on today's agenda. Will be led by Parab Adabala, our Director of Transportation.
Vice Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity today to discuss with you the start of the development of the next transportation plan for the city of Glendale. Typically, transportation plans are updated every 5 to 7 years. The 2001 transportation plan was the basis for the Proposition 402 ballot measure in 2001 that was approved by voters, and the subsequent council action in 2002 created CTOC and also the Transportation Sales Tax Program. The Transportation Sales Tax Program provided sufficient funding to cover all modes of transportation. The 2001 plan has since been updated twice, in 2009 and in 2017. This is an opportune time for us to update the plan to reflect council priorities and community vision for the transportation system. At the end of the process, we see a council-approved Glendale Transportation Plan that has been through significant staff and community input. Other plans are also in various stages, from grant agreements, consultant selection, to development. Those plans are General Plan, Vision Zero and Safety Action Plan, Airport Master Plan, and the Active Transportation Plan. Now, General Plan is a high-level plan within which transportation is an element or one chapter. The Transportation Plan is the vision for transportation in the city, system in the city. The Active Transportation Plan and Airport Master Plan and Vision Zero Safety Action Plans, these are all components of the Transportation Plan. So those are more granular in nature, and Transportation Plan is more of a high level. So today our focus is on the Transportation Plan in this presentation. The next presentation will talk about the Vision Zero and Safety Action Plans. we have alongside me today Phyllis Davis and Patrick Sage. Phyllis Davis is from Kittleson, the consultant that was selected for developing the transportation plan, and Patrick Sage is the transportation planning administrator for the city. With that, I'm going to hand off the presentation to Phyllis, and I'll be here to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Phyllis Hugel. Thank you. Thank you, Parab. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm privileged to be representing a large team working on this update for the transportation plan. We've worked alongside together to develop transportation plans across Arizona and the nation, and we're excited to work together to help support Glendale. So today I'm just going to go over a little bit about what a transportation plan is, how we're going to update it, and to show you the process and what we'll be looking for from the community as well as yourselves. So oftentimes when I say I'm working on a transportation master plan, I get a kind of confused look and people say, what is that even? So in short, this is really a game plan for how people and goods move through and in Glendale. So it looks at all modes, whether people are walking, biking, driving, using public transportation, or driving a heavy vehicle. The plan guides the plan evaluates what's working well today, what isn't working well, and what we need in the future to help improve mobility and connectivity throughout the city. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the guide is the plan develops a guide for transportation investment priorities and outlines what we need to do, when we need to do it, and how we're going to fund it. The transportation plan is one of Glendale's most important planning tools. It is informed by and is developed in coordinates with the general plan, the safety action plan. It builds off previous plans that we have been completed. It also represents the voice of our community members and our city staff on what our transportation needs and priorities are. It also is a guide for our investment decisions going forward. So that includes everything from what projects need to be included in our capital improvement plan, if there are any additional future mobility studies that are needed, and it also helps developers understand what transportation improvements we need. So right now, as Parab mentioned, the current guiding document for transportation decisions is the 2017 Long Range Transportation Plan. So this as well as I had identified and evaluated all modes of transportation with the city and what the needs are. It has led to a lot of the transportation improvements you've seen today in the community. It's also led to a lot of additional planning studies, such as the Active Transportation Plan. And while the 2017 plan has served the city very well, needless to say, a lot has changed since 2017. Glendale is rapidly growing and changing. We've seen a lot of population and employment growth throughout the community. You can look along the Loop 303 or at our Westgate and just to see that development that has occurred and what that additional demand has created onto our streets, our sidewalks, and our public transit. At the same time, how people have traveled has changed since 2017. We're seeing more people working from home. We're seeing the increase of delivery services. We're also seeing shifts in commute times within our city and as a region. Additionally, technology has really changed since 2017. Across the region, we've seen new modes emerge, such as microtransit or even Waymo. We've also seen a lot of new data tools that can help us analyze how our network is working today, so we can really pinpoint more accurately what our transportation needs are. And additionally, just as Parab kind of mentioned, there's a slew of plans being developed right now. The general plan, the safety action plan, the airport master plan. This is really an optimal time to work together with those consultants and teams to develop one vision for transportation going forward. So to develop the plan, you can really whittle it down to 4 steps. This makes the process look incredibly simple, but at the beginning of the process, we do a state of the system assessment. So we look at what's working today, what does our transportation system look like, how are people moving, what are the issues and opportunities within our network. Then we work with the planning department and the general plan team, as well as our regional planning partners, to understand where development and growth is occurring, and where those intensities are increasing, So then we can model and evaluate how this growth and demand is going to impact our transportation system. So then we can start to develop out a design toolbox and prioritization of projects. And this really helps us identify what types of improvements would really help us move the needle in terms of our safety, mobility, and connectivity. And finally, at the end of the day, is that phased transportation improvement. And so this is the guidebook that will help the city understand what we need in the next 5 years, the midterm, 10 years, and then ultimately the next 25 years. So from a study perspective, we are looking at the entire Glendale metropolitan planning area. So that incorporates all of our incorporated city, as well as the unincorporated areas in the western frontier all the way to Perryville Road. It's important to know that we are focused on city-maintained facilities, but we are also wanting to understand what is happening as a region and with our neighbors. Glendale's not an island, so we'll be working with McDOT and our neighboring partners to understand what growth and development is occurring in their areas, what transportation investments are they making, and how might that impact Glendale. So at the end of the day, City of Glendale is going to have a lot of deliverables, but I just want to highlight 4 kind of key items that you'll end up getting. So one is a new updated inventory of all existing facilities in Glendale today. The last time I think this inventory was updated was during the active transportation plan. So this is looking at all of our roadway intersection characteristics, the quality and location of all of our ped bike facilities, as well as a high-level ADA assessment. The second item that Glendale will get will be the tiered evaluation and prioritization of needs. So what's interesting that we're going to do in this plan is we're going to look at it in 3 different ways. We'll first be looking at, from a whole MPA area, what are our priority transportation investments. We also want to hone in on our unique neighborhoods. Glendale is very diverse, it's very large, we have very unique needs across the city. You can think of Westgate and, the special event needs and how that impacts circulation and traffic. But then you can also think of, Arrowhead and people wanting to get to the Thunderbird Conservation Area, or even in our north central area where that regional impact of commuters traveling through the city, how that impacts our roads. So we'll have to look distinctly amongst these neighborhoods of what the true investment needs are to address their issues. We'll also be zooming in on specific corridors to identify what are the exact needs that we need along some of our major routes to better improve congestion, safety, and mobility. Third, you'll also get the design policy and project toolbox. This will be an updated guidance for new cross sections or new design guidance for our streets or our facilities that the city can take to update their street design guidelines. We'll also be looking at any emerging technologies that are coming about that the city needs to be aware of, and any policies or procedures they may need to do to address them. Finally, the big item at the end of the day is that action and investment plan. So this will be that phased improvement projects, where this will identify in the next 5 years what are the priority investments for the city, as well as for the next midterm, 10 years, and then a long-term, 25 years. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, I do not have a money tree to give to the city, but we will be doing a whole funding and financial analysis to identify what truly do we have from a funding perspective and what projects can we afford within that time. This is a 2-year process where right now we're at the beginning of the development. We're in the existing conditions phase where we're collecting data, we're compiling information, and we're evaluating the system. Next year, we'll start to go into the future needs and identification. That's when we'll start to come up with these priority improvement projects. And then we're hoping to come back end of next year for council approval. You'll see on this slide that there are also 3 phases of community engagement that we'll be conducting throughout this process. We're hoping to kick our first phase of engagement off in November. We'll be going out to the public asking them, what issues are you seeing today? What improvements would you like to see in your neighborhood? We'll go about next year in the spring to give some ideas of here's what we've found, here's some improvement ideas we're seeing. Is this meeting the mark? Are we kind of having investments that you would like to see? And then finally, at the end of the plan, we'll go out to the public again to make sure that we are, presenting a plan that reflects their unique needs. From a council perspective, this is not the last time that you'll see us. We've become good friends at the end of this. We'll be reporting back to the council throughout this process to let you know what we've heard from the community, what we're seeing from a data analysis, and to get your feedback on what you're seeing as needs and what you're hearing from community members as well. So to engage the community, there's a flurry of items that we'll be doing throughout this process. We will have a project website developed, and that'll be sent to you shortly. On this website, it'll really be the hub of central information for the plan. It'll have all updated information. It'll also have online surveys and mapping exercises where community members can zoom into their neighborhoods and pinpoint exact locations they have issues or they would like to see improvements. For each of those 3 phases, we'll also be going out to the public to get information from them. So we'll be having 10 events. We'll be participating in 10 events for each phase. This could be from a range of activities, such as participation at big events, such as the Family Bike Ride or Glendale Glitters, but we're also looking for unique community pop-ups. We really want to meet community members where they're at. So if there's opportunities that we can participate in district council meetings, if we can go to the major transit stops or have pop-ups at park, we're just looking for opportunities to meet people where they're at. We'll also be holding stakeholder workshop meetings throughout this process, and so that'll include our regional planning partners, businesses, schools, community organizations, and they'll really serve as the voice of Glendale residents as well. And I'd be remiss to say if we do have an internal city working group developed as well, and so this is made up of key staff from each department within the city that will be working hand in hand with us throughout this process to provide us information, to review data, as well as provide feedback on their unique needs. So for council members, you really play a critical role in this process. You guys understand what your community members need. You hear from them probably daily on the unique challenges that they're facing. So we really want to tap into your knowledge throughout this plan. There's a lot of ways that you guys can participate and you can provide information for us. One is just providing feedback to Parag, Patrick, or myself on what is it that you're hearing from your community members. What information is it that we need to know so we can incorporate it in the plan? The other is just being a champion for the transportation plan. If we have opportunities for us to participate in any events that you're hosting, we would love to be there. Or even if sharing the transportation surveys on your newsletters or even to your friends, that helps us out a lot. So the next steps of the plan, so the project website and community engagement will be live soon. As is available, we will send that out to the council members to share amongst yourself, to your friends and your community members. And we're continuing on for that existing and future conditions assessment. Once that's complete, we'll come back to the council to give you a review of what we found and what we heard through the community engagement. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions or any feedback that you have on transportation issues you'd like to see us address through the plan.
Thank you. Councilmember Conchas.
Hello. Thank you very much for this thorough presentation. I'm very excited to work with you all to get citizen engagement and get some feedback. Some of the things that I would like to highlight, particularly for the Cactus District, to look forward to in the future is our increase in crosswalks citywide, smaller ones in neighborhoods near busy parks like Mission Park and Hatcher and 47th Avenue, or larger high visibility ones in front of, for example, there's one that may be needed in the future in front of Glenview Prep High School and the Fry's Grocery Shopping Center on 44th Avenue in Bethany Home. Also, I have the idea of adding a diagonal crosswalk near 47th Avenue and Northern near Apollo, and that would essentially be where in that crosswalk all of the traffic would be stopped on all 4 sides, and it would allow time for the students or the pedestrians to walk, in a straight line or go from one corner to the other. And, when I drive that and I look at how many fatalities we've had, especially on that corner, we really need to address that corner in particular, especially with the cinder block walls as well when you're turning east when you're heading north. There's some visibility issues there as well. And then also, I'm not sure if it goes into the transportation plan, but if we could clarify the process for speed humps and speed tables, so that residents understand how to request them, when they are needed, and what are the different thresholds needed in order for those to be installed. Some of the residents love them, some of the residents hate them, but some of the residents want to go out and petition for their community to have them. And also just providing mobility for our seniors, providing mobility for our students, our high school students, and our community college students, and we have universities as well here in Glendale, so those students as well. And of course our families is really important, so including programs like Ride Choice and expanded bus stops on the GUS system. And I'll be talking later on in this meeting about my new council item of special interest to add a GUS bus stop at the Cascalote senior apartment complex. That was we just did the ribbon cutting for that, and that was a request directly from the seniors there because they have to walk to Myrtle and 48th Avenue to catch the GUS bus, and a lot of them have service dogs, walkers, they might be in scooters or in wheelchairs, and the sidewalk and the lighting isn't the best, and so it could cause a safety issue as well. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Conchas. Can I clarify with you, are you looking for that detail of feedback from the council at this time, or will there be another opportunity? I just want to make sure we all understand what you're looking for from us.
Vice Mayor and council members, at this point, we do not need that level of detail, but if you have some, we will take down.
I saw you taking notes.
Yes, and that'll be the process
Okay.
going throughout the development of the transportation plan when, what Phyllis talked about, going out to the community, going to district meetings.
Okay.
And the survey that she talked about. So we'll be gathering all that.
So if somebody doesn't have anything, how would you suggest any of the council members, should they email you? I mean, obviously you said they can do it now, but if you think of some things later, that'd be the best way is just to send you an email?
That's correct. An email
Okay.
would be good. Phyllis talked about the website. There would be that opportunity as well.
Okay.
But if Vice Mayor and council members want to send emails with details, I'm happy to share that with them.
Okay, all right, very good. Any other questions? Councilmember Turner?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. A couple things I'd like for staff to be considering as they move forward. One is the impact of rail on our transportation system here in Glendale. I don't know that we've ever really looked at it before, but it is significant at 67th and Northern, 59th and Glendale, of course. And then the other one would be the opportunity to provide better accommodations for ride-sharing customers. We probably have more people doing ride-share now in Glendale than we do bicycling, particularly as a daily mode of transportation. Certainly out in the entertainment district, but elsewhere. We might even be able to work with the ride-share companies to determine what are the nodes in which people are coming from and going to through ride-share, and make sure that we have safe, convenient accommodation for them, because they're an important part of our transportation plan, because to some degree they take cars off the road, and they could be accommodated, and I think we should look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Turner. Anyone else? Okay, Councilmember Guzman.
You said that this whole project is going to take 2 years to complete. So none of these ideas or anything like that will be in any of the budgets, the next 2-year budgets?
Vice Mayor, council members, that is correct. The last step of the plan, as Phyllis mentioned, will be identifying projects and prioritizing them. So until we get to that point, we couldn't truly include in budget. What's already currently in the budget CIP will be also, just as a transportation plan, will also be taken into account
Okay.
when the project prioritization is being done.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No one has any further questions. I do have a question. What role, I didn't hear the Citizens Transportation Oversight Commission included in that, but I would hope that they have a key role in this process. So could you please explain that?
Vice Mayor, council members, CTOC would be the board and commission that the transportation plan will be going through. So either November or December, depending on the agenda, we'll be going to CTOC as a first attempt, but that'll be an ongoing effort throughout the process, just as would be with public.
Okay, thank you. And I do have, I don't know if maybe it's a suggestion as we move forward, because not everybody who's providing feedback is going to know whether something already exists in the CIP, whether it doesn't exist in the CIP. So if there's some way you could identify projects, because especially with the community engagement, we can say this is already in the CIP, this is not already in the CIP. So I think that would be really helpful as we're looking at things, stuff that we've already planned and stuff that we had not already planned. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Bauer, could you please introduce item number 3?
Introduction to the Vision Zero and Safety Action Plans.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, we'll continue with our Director of Transportation. He'll kick off the item number 3.
Vice Mayor and members of council, thank you for providing us the opportunity to introduce Vision Zero and safety action plans to you today. Over the past couple of years, the city has been successful in reducing traffic fatalities. This reduction could be attributed to increased enforcement, emergency response, safety engineering, and education. While this is good news, we would do better in reducing the number of fatalities. This would require a coordinated effort between transportation policies, traffic engineering, enforcement, emergency response, and education. The Vision Zero and safety action plans will be coordinating playbook that will provide policies, projects, processes, and toolbox. To aid in the development of these plans, our team was successful in securing approximately $800,000 in national competitive funding from the U.S. Department of Transportation. Through a competitive process for this project, we selected a team led by Stanley Consultants. Today with me here is Marta Gerber and Donna Lewandowski from the consultant team. Marta will continue the presentation from this point, and I'll be available here to answer any questions.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and council members. My name is Marta Gerber, as Parab mentioned. I'm with Stanley Consultant. I'm the project manager for both the Vision Zero and the Safety Action Plan. And here with me is Donna, we're gonna tag team the presentation. She's gonna talk about the Vision Zero part of the project, and I'll talk about the Safety Action Plan, and later on she'll mention or kind of describe where we are in the crash analysis at this point, a preliminary crash analysis. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you about this project today. We're very excited to conduct this project. There are many of your peers in the Valley have either recently have conducted a safety action plan, Vision Zero plan, or are in the process of conducting one of these plans. Examples are City of Goodyear, Tolleson, City of Phoenix, Mesa, among a number of other agencies in the Valley. This is a federally funded grant opportunity for the city that have some very specific requirements of what we need to develop and what needs to be completed. Completing a Vision Zero and safety action plan will better the position of the city to pursue and secure future safety funding for funding opportunities in the future. So we'll begin a couple of things in outlining the goals and the structure of an SS4A program, how it complements the Vision Zero program, Vision Zero plan, and how safe system principles are being used to identify and prioritize safety improvements across the city. And as I mentioned, Donna will kind of mention some of the preliminary crash analysis. So you may ask, what is the safety action plan? So a safety action plan is really a strategic data-driven framework designed to reduce and ultimately eliminate serious injury, crashes, and fatalities within the city. Guided by a safe system approach, which I'll mention and talk about in a little bit, it combines crash analysis with community input to identify priority safety issues, establishes clear goals, objectives, and outline a framework. Targeted strategies for improving roadway safety across all modes of travel. For drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users. These strategies really go beyond engineering solutions. In the past, we were really focused on engineering solutions to improve safety. With a safety action plan, you'll be looking at education, enforcement, policy, operational changes. When I talk to my team about a safety action plan, a lot of times I use a synergy or kind of an idea of a team sport. It's everyone's responsibility. We all have a responsibility in safety, improving safety, whether you're an engineer, a planner, a policymaker, council member. We all have a responsibility to create safer roads, and I'll get into it of how that's actually going to plan out through the safety action plan. Excuse me. This project will provide the city with a clear framework for understanding where and why the most severe crashes occur, while establishing goals and objectives and targeted actions to ultimately achieve zero fatalities. Next slide, please. So what is the safe system approach? So the safe system approach represents a paradigm shift from a traditional approach, a traditional way of managing roadway safety, to kind of looking to the future. So in the past, the traditional approach was really looking backwards, more reactive to what happened on the roadways at intersections, what kind of crashes occurred, to how can we fix a problem, versus the safe system approach is really looking forward to, based on what happened historically, how can we prevent crashes? What are the things that we can do from an engineering, a policy, a public involvement, education, enforcement perspective? What can we do to prevent crashes in the future? So for example, you could have an intersection where you had a number of crashes already occurring, and you have another intersections that have very similar attributes, but have not experienced the same level of crashes. What can we do to prevent crashes occurring at that intersection in the future? So in contrast, the safe system approach is a comprehensive strategy built on the belief that all traffic fatalities and serious injuries are preventable, and that no loss of life is acceptable. Sorry. It recognizes that people will inevitably make mistakes, and the transportation system really should be designed and managed so that these mistakes do not result in deaths and serious injuries. So it has to be a forgiving system that we design and implement to a degree. And then responsibility is shared. Going back again to, it's a team sport. We all share the responsibility, driving safely and really keeping everyone else safe on the road. So the safe system approach, as you can see in this wheel, which looks a little buggy on that one, has 5 core elements. In the middle, it has safe system approach, and around the middle, the first layer kind of goes through the 5 core elements: the safer roads, safer speeds, safer vehicles, safer road users, and post-crash care. And all those 5 elements work together with the 6 principles that are on the outside of the circle. And the 6 principles are: safety is proactive. As I said, it's looking forward. What can we do to prevent crashes in the future? Responsibility is shared. We all share responsibly on the road in creating a safer community. Humans are vulnerable. We need to recognize the fact that we are vulnerable, and we can only accept a certain amount of force when we are in a crash, and we need to make our roadways safer from a crash perspective. Redundancy is crucial, so this is a really important part. We need to create an environment, a roadway, a transportation environment that is redundant in a way. For example, if like, we all drive cars, and within your car you have your seatbelt and you have the airbags, whether it's in your steering wheel or on the side of the car. If your seatbelt fails, your airbag will kick in and will protect you in a crash. Or on a roadway, if you think about a hawk signal at an intersection, there's a hawk signal, but you also have a high visibility crosswalk marking usually to let the drivers know that there's a crosswalk where you can see a pedestrians. But if you miss the signal for some reason, you still have the markings on the road to see a pedestrian. So that's a redundant system, as an example. Deaths and serious injuries are unacceptable. And then humans make mistakes. Humans make mistakes. And so the system that we create needs to be forgiving. This one, please. So the SAFE system approach is a data-driven, proactive system, as I mentioned. That means that we don't wait for crashes to occur. We're looking for opportunities to improve intersections and segments before those crashes occur. It's a data-driven analysis that we complete, look at the root cause and root causes of the issues and crashes, and implement coordinated strategies, excuse me, to prevent serious injuries and fatalities before they occur. And the goal of the SAFE system approach is to build a resilient and forgiving transportation systems, one where every part, from the road design to speed management to vehicle technology, it all works together to save lives. And sorry, I'm gonna lose my voice. And I'm gonna hand it over to Donna to talk about the Vision Zero plan.
Marta, Vice Mayor and council members. Donna Lewandowski with Fair and Peers. And Marta brought us in on this to really lead the Vision Zero part and the crash analysis part of this plan. So you have two plans that are happening here that really do mesh together, but they are distinct elements. So the Vision Zero plan is your high-level planning document. It's where you make the commitment and say that, yes, fatalities and serious injuries are preventable and we're going to prevent them. It's a standalone document as that high-level policy document, and it will be the first step of the safety action plan. The focus is on that commitment, the high-level safety policies, and really the crash analysis, what's going on the roadways. It's intended to really develop also buy-in from you, from city leaders, and from the community on this safe system approach and that commitment to eventually eliminating deaths and serious injuries. And the point of this type of a plan overlaying the more detailed safety plan is that it really aims to institutionalize safety in all areas of the city.
All right, so what are the requirements of the safety action plan? So as I said, it is a federal grant and there are very specific requirements that we need to fulfill for the project. And the safety action plan has 7 major components. One is the leadership commitment and goal setting, and that is really going to be completed through the Vision Zero plan. Establishing a clear vision and measurable goals supported by elected officials here at the table. And city staff. The second one is the planning structure. So this one really defines the roles and responsibilities and the partnerships on the project. And then once we walk away, once we complete the project and it's adopted, there's a team in place that's taking the project or the plan from the shelves or from the completion and adoption point to implementing it. So just like Phyllis's project, the Transportation Master Plan, there will be a set of strategies and projects at the end of the plan that will be either part of the CIP or moving forward, you can apply for additional federal funding to complete them. The third part is the safety analysis is a data-driven analysis, as I mentioned, that really looks at where and why these crashes are occurring and what are the things that we can do to help identify the high injury network. The first part will be that we develop a high injury network that's based on current crashes in your current transportation system. And then we'll look at the high-risk network, which identifies what are the similar intersections or corridors to the ones that are currently experiencing a high number of crashes and potentially could be experiencing a number of crashes or high number of crashes in the future if nothing is being done. And what are the things that we can do to prevent them? The The fourth one is engagement and collaboration. Just like any plan, this plan has a fairly significant public engagement process also included to make sure that community members and local agencies and stakeholders all have a voice in shaping the safety priorities for the city. The fifth one is analysis of communities in persistent poverty. While this is not a mandatory requirement anymore for the project, we still include it in the process moving forward. Number 6 is policy and process changes. So we're gonna look at, just like Donna had mentioned, institutionalized safety within the city and policy changes and design changes, design measure changes to move safety forward, adopting different standards and procedures, and then strategies and project prioritization. So a prioritized list is going to be developed, and strategies that will turn all the analysis that we complete into an action by identifying the most effective and data-driven projects to move forward. And the last one that's actually not on the list is progress and transparency. So one of the requirements that the Safety Action Plan and the Vision Zero Plan has to be publicly posted on the website, on the city's website, and measure progress on an annual basis. Right. So guiding of the planning process. So the way I look at it is it's a tiered process, and there are 4 tiers. So the first level is really the project management team. That would be myself, Baron Pierce, who is our sub-consultant, and our public engagement consultant on the team, alongside the project management team at the City of Glendale, who's Mary Lou Garcia and Tony Abo, are the project management team alongside us. And then the next level is the core team, members of different departments. They really help us with the technical guidance and review progress of the project to make sure that we are staying in alignment with city priorities. And then the next level is the Executive Action Plan Leadership Committee, the EAPLC team, that's made up of department directors. They really at a high-level oversight. They make key decisions on recommendations, and ultimately, when the plan is adopted and completed, they are going to be responsible for making sure that the projects that are part of the plan are moving forward and are implemented. And then finally, City Council and the Mayor, and then the Citizen Transportation Committee play a central role by helping establishing the vision, goals, and strategies that will shape the city's long-term safety direction. And then I'm going to hand it over to Donna, who's going to talk about the preliminary crash analysis now.
Thank you. So between 2018 and 2024, at least 824 people died or were seriously injured in crashes on roadways in Glendale. I say at least because this is crash level data, so a crash that may have caused a death or a serious injury would only be coded in this data set as a fatal crash. We'll look at victim level data a little bit down the line, but this is really what we need to understand what's going on, is this crash level data. And yes, that's 824 little people up there. I counted. This is a map of the fatal and serious injury crashes between those 7 years, 2018 to 2024. This is only the fatal and suspected seriously injured crashes. When we put all crashes, it just turned into one amorphous blob up there. So this was a better way to look at it, to really understand where this more serious crashes are happening. It excludes any crashes that happened on SR 101 and SR 303. And it includes US 60 Grand Avenue. So why are we including a state-owned roadway? So SR 303 and 101, they look and feel different from other roads in Glendale, right? I think people generally understand that fixing that should be ADOT's problem. But Grand Avenue looks and feels like every other Glendale road. And most people may not really understand that it's not under Glendale's control. But people intuitively know what this slide says, and that's that when a crash happens, they're more likely to be seriously injured or killed if that crash happens on Grand Avenue than if it happens elsewhere. So residents are going to expect that this roadway is taken into consideration in this planning process. Next slide, please. Okay. So this is just 7 years. Your total crashes on Glendale roadways was 32,573. So that's over 100 crashes that result in at least one death or serious injury each year. So looking at these by, I'm sorry, my notes here are not cooperating. Looking at these by node, what I want to point out here is that the total does not sum. And that's because bicycle-involved crashes and pedestrian-involved crashes are uniquely counted, but a crash that may have happened between a vehicle and a motorcycle is counted in both of those crashes. Likewise, a motorcycle and a truck-involved crash would be counted in both of those. So that does not sum. Okay. And so looking at the percent of FSI versus the percent of mode total in there, we see that it's not surprising that if you're on a bicycle, or if you're walking, or if you're riding a motorcycle and involved in a crash, you're much more likely for that crash to be serious. So what's next for the Vision Zero plan? We'll be doing a more detailed crash analysis where we look at the types of movements on specific roadways or specific roadway features that are more likely to be present in a fatal or serious injury crash. And then we'll be creating the high injury network that Marta alluded to. And a high injury network is really just a subset of streets in the city where the majority of serious injuries and fatal crashes occur. It's still reactive because it only looks at where crashes have occurred. But it's the precursor to the development of a high-risk network. And the high-risk network uses the findings that are the high injury network, along with contextual data to predict where fatal and serious injury crashes are more likely to occur in the future, regardless of the crash history at that site. So that's where we start to see that predictive, forward-looking plan. Turn that back to Marta.
Thank you. So just kind of looking through the schedule, and this is just a quick look at our overall schedule for the Safety Action Plan and the Vision Zero Plan. So today is our first step, really providing information or providing an overview of the project and what you can expect in the future to see. Just like the transportation plan, we'll be fast friends by the end of the project. We'll come back a couple more times. The next time we'll come back is May of 2026 for a work session, a dedicated work session where we will review the draft findings, high priority corridors, and some of the proposed safety strategies. And that includes everything that our public engagement team members collecting the public through the public process, and then also through the data analysis that we have identified. And then right now the plan is to come back for approval and adoption of the plan later next year, a year from now in November of 2026. We will be working closely with the transportation team. We are available to attend any of the district meetings that you may have. And then just mention our public engagement. We have two phases of the public engagement. The first one just began this month, or we started a little early in October, and it goes through early April. So it's a longer process. It's not a one and done. It's a continual process, and then we'll have a second phase that's gonna be part of next fall, and it's also a longer time frame. One and done. Public. So now I'm gonna open up for questions and comments.
And anybody have any questions? Councilmember Turner?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Looks like I have a couple or three. On one of the slides, you referenced truck-involved accidents. And let's see, that's on slide 16. Exactly what kind of, or generally, what kind of trucks are we talking about there?
Those are not your pickup trucks. Those are your larger delivery vehicles, 18-wheelers, your larger box trucks.
1 ton or larger type of a truck or something like
Larger
that?
than 1 ton, so a 1-ton pickup would not be included.
Okay, thank you for that. I would think it would be helpful as you're accumulating and compiling the data, that we also consider the time of day of the crashes. I don't know if that's standard for you, but it's certainly something I'd be interested in, so we can see where to apply resources. And when it comes to the resources, that's my next point I'd like to make, and that's on slide number 5, where we have the spoke and wheel. So safe vehicles is a part of it, but we don't do vehicle inspections, and we're probably, I would predict, not going to get into vehicle inspections at the city level. The post-crash care and the safe roads are, safe roads are more of a design element than anything, and the post-crash care is again after the fact. But safe speeds and safe road users are a place where we can have impact on behavior and also in design to help reduce the unsafe nature of human beings, right? So things like speed humps maybe impact safe speeds, maybe not, it's arguable, but the two areas then that I'm concerned about are the safe road users and the safe speeds, and how we can impact that with what we traditionally call jaywalking and anti-jaywalking efforts, not just education, but also enforcement. And then on the safe speeds, to me, that's an enforcement component that's beyond the scope of the transportation department and gets over into our police department. So I'm going to be interested in how this program then connects with the enforcement component, and certainly don't think we need to wait longer than necessary for the enforcement. If we see that there's times of the day or locations in the city in which more enforcement would be helpful, I'd like us to see us bring those recommendations or that data forward sooner rather than later. My anecdotal observation would be that it seems to me in the time frame between about 4:30 in the afternoon and 6:30 or 7 at night, we have a lot more speeding than we do other times of the day, and that we also have more jaywalking and that sort of behavior around the bus stops, and people who are cutting through traffic, either having just got off a bus or hurrying to get to a bus and that sort of thing. And those are maybe areas that we could impact sooner rather than later. Roadway design and all of that. We've been taking roadway design under consideration for longer than I've been on the council, and so I know that that's a area of importance to our transportation department. But these other two areas, I think, are a place where we could perhaps make a difference and zero in on the time frames and the locations in which those two behaviors seem to occur most, and apply greater enforcement. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Melner.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And, over the years, I've had a lot of residents who have really addressed this to me, this concern of public safety on our roadway. So thank you very much. Now, the question I have first is this safety plan the first of this detail that we've had in Glendale? Have we had one of these before? I don't recall really having this level of discussion before, and perhaps we have.
Vice Mayor and Council, this is our first safety action plan. Our transportation traffic engineering team does work on safety projects, and they do look at the data, but this one is not just our traffic engineering team, and that's the part, I think some of the comments do reflect that. Enforcement, and in my opening statement, that's why I was trying to make that point that enforcement, emergency response. We all know a couple months ago there was a serious crash that happened involving a bicyclist in North Glendale.
Right.
And that did not turn into fatality. I'm fairly certain because of the emergency response that was involved. So all of those components play a role, and that comprehensive look is what we haven't done.
Okay.
We've done parts of those. I'm sure police department is looking at enforcement to increase safety. So is transportation department. So is fire department. So are the other departments. But Now we'll do it as a team, and sometimes when you join forces, you get better outcomes than individuals.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I understood that this was part of a grant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Vice Mayor and Council.
All right, well, kudos to whoever started that process. I think this is going to be very well received by the community. The residents, I think, are looking for some action on this, because that number that you put up there, 824, that was shocking. And so I'm really happy to see that we're moving forward on this kind of a plan. Now, it sounds like from what the discussion, that it's going to be very much data-driven. Could you describe that a little bit more as far as how you plan to prioritize what we want in this plan based on the data you'll be putting together?
Vice Mayor, Council Member. So we're looking at crash data. That's the primary data that we're looking at. We're also looking at the type of collectors, arterials, land uses. There are a number of data that we had already collected from the city. And we're actually collaborating on the transportation master plan with sharing data on what they are using and what we are using. But it's primarily looking at where your high injury corridors and intersections are located based on the data that we have is the first step. Donna can probably elaborate on that a little bit, but once she actually delivers the high injury network that's based on your current crash numbers that in the last 7 years, so the reason why we're looking at from 2018 to 2024 is, well, first we have all of the data through 24, but also because of the pandemic in the middle, and that kind of skews the numbers in there. So we took the approach of taking 7 years instead of just the last 5 years, because typically we only look at 5 years of data. But it's primarily based on the crashes and the type of facilities that you have and how the attributes of a corridor or an intersection actually influence or work with the crashes that are occurring.
Hi, all. Thank you very much. If I may, Mayor,
Sure.
Vice Mayor. And you also talked about a high public engagement, yet I see it being more data-driven. So what are you looking for from the public and from us as the council on these issues? Because it sounds like you want it to be data-driven, so we know those areas that we need to concentrate on. And so me saying, well, I need to have a crosswalk over here, or, have, something done to this intersection, may or may not fit into that discussion. So I kind of want to know what you're expecting from the public and from us.
Vice Mayor, Council Members, so that's a valid comment. So what we do is really collect data similarly to the Transportation Master Plan. We'll have a website and a map where residents can come and kind of pinpoint in their own little neighborhood or areas and collectors and arterials where they see a safety issue. Now, the difference between the master plan and the safety action plan is we're not looking for, I want a crosswalk here. We're looking for, where did you see a crash? Did you see a crash that occurred and you concerned that there could be an issue? Are you seeing something specific that maybe the corridor is not lit up, or it's not safe to walk down because you're missing sidewalks in an area? Or we're looking for those type of feedback rather than I need something here because I would like to cross the road.
Okay, awesome. That's good to understand. I see that we have a workshop coming up in May. So what kind of detail will you be providing us? Will you be providing us these crash statistics and whatnot in advance? And then, of course, we can reach out to our residents at the time asking for that kind of detail or input, I guess, on the plan.
Yes, in the workshop in May, by then we'll have the crash analysis, data-driven analysis completed, both the high injury network and the high risk network. So we'll have a lot more information. At that point, we'll be moving into strategies and projects and some of the more details that are moving into based on the public engagement information that we received. One of the other things I would mention that sometimes in a data-driven analysis, we're so focused on the data that not that we miss reality, but sometimes there's some things that are missed because we're not on the road. We're really focused on the data. So that's where the public engagement really comes in to kind of round out the information that we have, not just from the data, but also from the public. And so in May, we'll bring back the analysis for the high injury network, the high risk network, and then some of the strategies and projects that we're looking at that point, and some of the policy changes that we are recommending, and some of the other design changes that will be recommended. And then I'm gonna let Donna, because I can see that she wants to say something, but she's also, her team is gonna be working on the speed management part of the project as well.
Okay.
So, and mayor, council members. There will be a neighborhood speed study that's also done, and some policies and processes that come out of that as recommendations. But what I really have been doing this about saying is that we look at the information that we get through these surveys and through these mapping exercises with the public as more data to put into the process. So this crash layer, the layer of data where we look at how many, what do your streets really look like? How many left-hand turn lanes do you have and things like that? What are your land uses? Where are your bus stops located and what's happening near them? Those are all layers of data, and one of those layers of data is the information that we get from the public, and that's what is used then to call this a data-driven process.
Okay. Well, very good. I appreciate your presentation today, and I think this is very much warranted for the city. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Conchas?
Yes, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Malnar, for all of those great questions and comments. I had a question about the slide 11, which is the fatal and serious injury crashes from 2018 to 2024. And I can make my own assumptions, but I just wanted to ask if we have any idea or correlation of why such a concentration is what we often call the elbow of Glendale. So that includes some of the Ocotillo district, the Cactus district, some of the Beryl district. And it seems like 67th Avenue on the west side, Olive on the north, maybe even Peoria, and then of course our boundaries of 43rd Avenue and Camelback. Could you all do you all have any insight now about why it's such a concentration of fatal and serious injuries in that particular area, or is it too early to analyze that?
Vice Mayor and council members, thank you for that. To be clear, no, all right? That's what the point of doing a very data-driven process is that this is stuff we all know, right? If you drive around your city, you know that these are areas that have higher concentrations of crashes, and you might take more care, or you may avoid it on your bicycle and things like that. So we intuitively know this, but the point of doing the data-driven analysis is really to break down our assumptions about why and figure out what's really happening in those areas. So respectfully, no, we don't want to, I could give you my opinions, but they're my opinions, right? That's not what we want out of this plan. We will have a lot more to give you once we come back to you in.
Vice Mayor? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, Councilmember Guzman. Councilmember Guzman.
The survey that you were, it's kind of loud. The survey that you were talking about, is this survey going to go out to the residents like on slide 13 that show where there's a lot of heavy crashes, or is it going to be citywide to everybody?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember, can you repeat that question?
Okay, you guys mentioned that you're going to be collecting more data, more information from the communities.
Yes.
So, and then you spoke of a survey. Somebody said something about a survey. Is that survey going to go to the residents in these areas that you see on this map where there are large crashes? Or is it going to the whole city of Glendale?
So my understanding is that it's going to go to the entire city of Glendale. There are various, we're going to have a website, we're going to have survey information through various methods. But yes, it's going to be, it's not just specific locations. It's not just to the areas where we see the crashes currently.
So it's going to be a type of a survey where you tell the residents that they can go to
Yes.
that website and answer the questions there?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Bolden-Negro.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. You spoke of speed surveys, and in my position with the Glendale Elementary School District, I often have to go to Councilman Turner's district, my district, Councilman Guzman's district, and Councilman Concha's district because our schools are scattered around in all 4 of those districts. And there are some stretches of neighborhood roads that, I'll give you an example. 47th Avenue from Bethany to Maryland, there's no stop sign. From Maryland to Glendale, there's no stop sign, running north and south. And I'm sure there's some red dots along that line. However, I know when I go work at some of these schools, and I hear these people just screaming up and down the roads. There's some by the cemeteries off of 63rd Avenue and between Northern to, I believe, Diane or Barbara, whatever the street is. There's some, and these are interior roads in the neighborhoods, near schools. And I remember you saying you're going to be doing speed surveys. Will you be accepting input of where we would ask for those to be done so that we can also just, because I mean, we hear it a lot from people saying, how come you're not doing anything? How come we're not getting speed bumps? And they say, well, you know, the city told us we don't have enough people driving this road enough that it doesn't warrant for the amount of vehicles, but of those 100 vehicles, 70 of them are going, you know, ripping down that road. I mean, will the citizens be able to give suggestions to certain spaces for, or certain places for those speed surveys so they can kind of like at least reflect some of their input, is what I'm asking.
Vice Mayor and council members, thank you for that. That is an opportunity on those maps and the surveys that we'll be putting out there for them to say, you know, I'm afraid here for my kids because they're speeding, and that is one of those layers. But we're also going to be purchasing big data speed. So we're going to try and get a more accurate picture using those big data sources. We're still shopping around to figure out which ones are going to be the most accurate for your city. But then we're going to have speed data, actual speed data from those cloud-based amazing things that are beyond my comprehension.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Conchas.
Thank you, Councilmember Waldenegro. Sorry, I'm like in another thing, but I actually, even before I ran for council, there's a yield sign on my street, and the street is curved to a certain way where even the yield sign, if you were to stop, you really can't see traffic coming north if you're traveling west. So I would also suggest that we look at where our yield signs are and see if they may need to be changed. Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have a question. On slide 4, obviously prevent crashes. I'm looking at the chart. Improve human behavior. Control speeding by reducing the system kinetic energy. Could you explain that a little bit for us?
So that's more in terms of what are the geometric or engineering improvements that we can do to reduce kinetic energy, or when you hit something or crossing the road, in terms of curbs that are kind of slowing the vehicle down so you're not crossing the road. If you have a medium versus a two-way left turn lane, it's really just reducing the speed that somebody is traveling at. So when you're hitting something, the kinetic energy that happens from the crash is lower than if you're just speeding through. And there's
Okay,
nothing for slowing down the vehicle.
All right, so I misunderstood. So basically you're saying that would be a way to reduce the seriousness of the crash.
Correct.
It doesn't do anything to control the speeding.
Correct.
Okay, that's where I was like, how does that slow people down? So, and then the next one is individuals are responsible and share responsibility. And I'm curious because, I mean, speeding and red light running are a choice people make. I don't know who should share the responsibility when somebody decides to run a red light or, drive way too fast in a residential area or even on an arterial. And those are the two. And I know the council's been quite clear with our police department. Our new chief, Colby, has instituted the radar front and back in all of our patrol cars. We've made it clear we want our residents, the most dangerous thing we do, and I've said this I don't know how many times up here, is most of us aren't going to be involved in violent crime, but the most dangerous thing we do every day is drive our car on the streets because of, I believe, self-centered behavior by a lot of drivers. And so can you explain to me what your perspective is, maybe not the same as mine, so I want to understand how you share responsibility for, disregarding the rules of the road.
Vice Mayor, council members. So, as I said, it's a team sport. It's everybody's responsibility. So when something like that happens, the individual is also responsible, right? We're responsible for the engineering part of it, or the traffic engineering department is responsible how they operate the signals, how that's going to work. Excuse me. What the red light phases, or how much time is allocated for all red or the yellow phase, and how the public is actually traveling through the intersection. Law enforcement comes in of making sure that those things don't happen. So it's more of a, how do we prevent it from those things happening? What are the things that we need to change within the city of Glendale's policies and operation, the way you do things today, to be able to prevent those occurrences? And yes, it's education, it's law enforcement, it's engineering, it's operation, it's everyone working together. And I understand your concern of how would I take responsibility for something running the red light? It's more on the policy level. So you come into place of how do we create a safer environment? How do we create the safer roadways, community, a culture, not just within your agency, so that you're moving forward safety within the agency and everything that you do, but also how do you create a safer culture for the city of Glendale from a driving perspective? And those are the things that we're gonna be moving forward and looking at of what are the things that are maybe, how can we institutionalize, as Donna said earlier, safety for the city of Glendale?
Go ahead, Parab.
Vice Mayor and Council, also, when Donna talked about the data that is going to be gathered for speed from the cloud sources that she was talking about, there will be patterns where there's a lot more speeding that's happening. We also potentially could come out with solutions that are technology-based that could provide locations that are more prone to speeding, so that enforcement can happen on a targeted basis. So that's also, those are some of the things where individuals could be responsible
Okay.
when enforcement starts happening.
Thank you for that. And then what about red light running? I mean, how do you, are you gonna set up cameras? How are you gonna understand where the intersections are? I could name several right now where red light running is chronic. Sometimes 3-4 cars will run the red light. In fact, I took a run at red light cameras here on the council a few years ago because I have a friend whose son was killed. And those are, I think, probably the most, except maybe for head-on, the most dangerous crashes is somebody running a red light. But how are you going to be able to analyze, other than just anecdotal data from people saying there's a lot of red light running happening at this intersection? How are you going to actually get that kind of data?
Vice Mayor and Council. First off, the red light running data usually shows up in your crash data. Because if you have an intersection where you have a lot of red light running, we're going to see crashes that are coming out of that. It's not a benign occurrence, right? Now, there are, obviously, the more red light running you have, the more crashes you have, and so that's how we see where those are. And then we start to look at what were the instances that are happening. And you talked about people making a choice, and that's to get away from that individual idea that somebody made a choice to run a red light. Well, that is true. They made the choice to run that red light. There are things that we can do to make that a harder choice for them to make, or make the safer choice the easier choice. Maybe it's a problem with the timing of the lights. Maybe it's a problem with having a different type of a flashing yellow arrow instead of a red and green arrow. So there are engineering things that we can do that help people make safer choices. In the case of bus stops, if we have people running across the road to catch a bus, maybe we need to look at the timing of the bus system. You've got maybe a transfer there that a lot of people use that's too close. It's too close in time, and so they're running to catch that bus because they don't have time to walk up to the corner and wait for the light. So we can look at those behaviors where people are making that choice and try and see what are the reasons behind those behaviors, and can we do some things physically and with engineering and enforcement to make those choices a little harder for them to make and make the better choices easier.
Thank you for that. I'd like to see our communications team, once we start rolling this out to the community, put out I don't want to say marketing campaign, but put some information out there also to let residents know that we, all of us are responsible for the safety of everyone on the road while we're driving. And do that kind of alongside of this is also letting people know. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are chronically late, which is probably one of the number one reasons probably for speeding and red light running, and I don't know how you correct that. I had an employee one time when I worked in a bank, and I did not want to fire her. She was a good employee, but she was chronically late. And I suggested, and I ran into her not that long ago, and she still does this. I suggested she put her alarm clock where she had to get out of bed to turn it off. So just sometimes changing one little thing that somebody does, though, can make a difference, because I know people who, you know, they leave at the very last second. So there's a lot of people, that's what the issue is. And so I think in order for this to be successful, at least my thought is that we also need to engage with the public through our social media and other channels on changing their behavior also. Because I don't think it works by just doing the engineering part. I think part of it has to be changing people's behavior and having them understand that you could be killed, you could kill somebody by not leaving 5 minutes earlier. So, you know, it really isn't everybody's best interest for you to leave 5 minutes earlier so you can get to work on time or wherever you're going on time and not have to speed and not have to take a chance at an intersection on a light that's clearly red. So, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a couple comments, please.
Sure.
First, I think this plan is something that's been needed. I hope, like everybody, that I've been here since 2016, I would guess then, based on these numbers, close to 1,000 people have been injured or killed on streets here in Glendale. So that should get everybody's attention. I want to say a couple things I think need to be said. Is that first, we design our streets and roads and lights and signage to federal standards that have been adopted. I don't want the citizens at home thinking that from this presentation that we have been irresponsible in Glendale for how we've designed our system. The vast majority of these 1,000 will be because of the 3 items of the 5, which is, you know, speed, vehicles, and the overall users. Those are the 3 that will drive most of this. Now, that being said, as you mentioned, Vice Mayor, we've just got done implementing forward and rear-facing permanent mounted speed enforcement devices in all police cars. We're already starting to make a move towards the speed reduction. Councilmember Turner said, well, the safe vehicles is really not in our area. I would maybe just do one caveat with that, is that we can make it a priority within the police department that when we do interactions with vehicles, we can check to see whether or not tires are meeting the safety standards, whether we pull somebody over with a tail light or headlight not working function. There are some basic safety things that we could make a priority as a policy level and get engaged in. The camera issue you brought up, I think, is important. Again, what I would propose that if we saw crash data that was normalized for traffic volume and compared Paradise Valley with any other city in the state or of Arizona, you will see less red light and less crash data because of red light running than any city. It's not because of how they've designed the intersection. It's really very much an enforcement and education component of that. I was looking at interesting data. In 1980, the fastest Ferrari, or one of the faster Ferraris, a 308 GTB, had a 0 to 60 time in 6.5 seconds. My 2 nephews have a Tesla Model 3, which is their entry-level Tesla, that does 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. So a lot of this is very much driven by, we have faster vehicles that accelerate much faster. And so, you know, we want to be looking at roadway design to see what we can do to make our roads safer. But I just want to be cautious at what, you know, we design all of our roads to federal standards. And now this is really about, you know, what can we do to try driving down this. I think our consultants will be able to show data, give us a good roadmap for how we can move forward. And, you know, certainly looking forward to that. And then just want to remind you, one of the innovative programs that we've won awards on is our new high school program of where we educate in the high schools. And there's another policy area that which we can do and can kind of move forward to. So I think we'll have a lot of interaction, a lot of opportunity with the consultants. I hope that this continues to be a priority. Perhaps we look at the red light issue down the road again and see if there isn't still some policy issues that we can continue to really incentivize our citizens to follow the rules that have been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Anybody have anybody, nothing else? Thank you very much. Ms. Bauer, could you please introduce item number 4?
Council item of special interest, code cases submitted by an individual.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report will be Deputy City Manager Rick St. John.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Here with me today to help in the presentation and primarily the Q&A part of the presentation is your new code official, Tasha Jefferson. She started in May of this year and has already implemented a couple of things that I think you'll be very happy to hear about. This is a conversation that we're having in response to Vice Mayor's council item of special interest about an administrative change that was made in March of 2023 to limit the number of cases that a single individual can submit through Glendale One for code violations and code violations only. So it doesn't include bulk trash, it doesn't include potholes in the street or broken signs or other nuisance behavior that people use Glendale One to report through. These are just simply code violations. We reduced that number from 5 to 2. To give some historical background on that, Glendale procured Glendale One, our communication platform, to the community in 2019 as part of our balanced scorecard, Tier 1 balanced scorecard strategic planning initiatives to enhance communication with the community. We wanted to make it easier for people to let us know when they had an issue, whether it was their trash didn't get picked up or there's a tree overhanging a sidewalk that's making it dangerous for pedestrians to walk past. Things like that, things that we might not normally see or be looking for. So they're reporting those things to us. And of course, all code violations. We want to hear from the community about what's important to them in terms of code enforcement. So they can submit any code violation through Glendale One. When we implemented Glendale One in 2020, I had just taken over the code division and had brought kind of a different mindset to how the code division was running. So I'm not going to say anything about how they ran before I took over in 2020, but what I brought to the table was a policy of fair and equitable treatment, which in my mind meant regardless of where you live in the city or regardless of your violation, you go through the same process that everybody else goes through when there's a violation on your property. So you get a certain number of inspections, you get plenty of education and opportunity to correct the violation. If you refuse to correct the violation, we move to a citation for anybody. The other initiative that I had was that we should be doing proactive inspections more than, at a greater rate than the complaints coming in through Glendale One. We should know what's going on in our work areas or our grids, and we should be opening proactive cases at about a 60-40 split. So 60% of our cases proactive, 40% reactive through Glendale One. In 2020, we were 8.1% proactive. And through the years, we've been able to improve that number. So in March of 2023, for example, we were 50% proactive. And today, in 2025, we are over 60% proactive. So we have reached that initial goal of the 60-40 split, but Tasha now has set a new goal of a 75% proactive approach. And she believes, I'll let her say it if she'd like to, but she believes we can accomplish that within the next several months and get us there. Through an initiative that she brought into place about 2 months ago, and I'll talk briefly about that initiative. In the past, we've had 12 grids and 12 grid inspectors and 5 senior inspectors that were working both proactively and reactively through Glendale One. What we found is that didn't provide enough time for proactive work. We needed more time to be proactive. So Tasha reduced the number of grids to 9 grids, took 3 of the inspectors and the 5 senior inspectors, so 8 people, and they worked nothing but Glendale 1 cases across the entire city. The other 9 inspectors are now doing nothing but proactive work within their respective grid, which is why we think we can get to the 75%. In about January of 2023, I met with a couple of inspectors in the code division that wanted to talk to me about some issues they were having in their grids. They brought forward some data that showed a handful of people were submitting a very large number of code cases through Glendale 1, averaging about 3.5 cases per week for every week over a 4-year period. So they're within the confines of the limit of 5 that we put on it from the beginning. These cases were usually targeted in specific areas. The 2 that I'm thinking of, there's the Ocotillo District, and then there's the Saguaro District, Granada Estates, where these individuals were going into those communities and taking pictures of violations, submitting cases, sometimes 14, 20, 25 at a time. So we would stack those cases. We would input 5 per week until we got all their cases inputted. But we also, because, you know, in some cases it was several weeks before we input the case in Glendale 1, we'd also have to try to verify that the violation still existed. Because we didn't want to input a case if the violation was abated. That created a lot of administrative work. And what the inspectors for these 2 grids told me was they felt like they were working for these 2 individuals and not for the city as a whole, that they were being directed in a way by these individuals into certain areas of their grid, which was forcing them to not proactively enforce other areas of their grid. So they were continually getting pulled away from the plan that we had for them to proactively work through their entire grid as quickly as possible. And right now, it takes about 4 to 5 months for us to inspect every property in the city of Glendale. So we're inspecting every property on average 2 to 3 times a year, which I think is pretty good. But what they described was they felt like they were getting pulled away from the work they were trying to do to work on somebody's interest or special interest. And they asked if we could reduce the number of cases that were allowed to be inputted by an individual per week and remove the administrative policy of stacking cases and working through those cases over time, inputting them 2 or 5 at a time, wherever we landed. And so, you know, I think the easy thing was to say, oh yeah, we don't have to administratively stack cases. We can let the community know that you've reached your limit. Next week you can submit more cases, but we're only accepting these cases right now. Unless, of course, there's safety issues or some other reason why we need to take the case. Because we're never going to turn around a safety issue or turn down a safety issue. I brought that information to Mr. Phelps. We had some higher level conversation at the city manager's office about what we might be able to do, and that's when we made the administrative decision to reduce the number from 5 to 2 and to remove that administrative policy of stacking cases and inputting them over time. We brought that to council, had a good discussion in executive session, and we've been operating under that since about March of 2023. When in that time period, we've improved, as I said before, our proactive activity from about 50% to over 66% right now. And by way of numbers, we have a little over 1,100 cases currently that are open and active. 503 are in Glendale 1, and the balance are in our proactive cases. You're going to realize that doesn't equal 66-point-something%. The 66% was January 1 of 2025 to October 24 of 2025. So it includes cases that were opened and closed already, both from Glendale 1 and proactively. We're currently sitting at about, I think that number ends up being about 58, 59% proactive cases that we're actively working right now. Some of the reason for that, I think, is the change that Tasha made to pull 3 inspectors out to do nothing but reactive cases, allowing the other 9 to be completely proactive, is only about 2 months old. And so they still have cases out of Glendale. The 9 that are proactive are still working their older cases out of Glendale 1. As this council knows, sometimes it can take 6, 9, 12 months even to work a case completely through, get it through the court system, get compliance from the homeowner or renter, and close the case. So I anticipate that our 9 inspectors working nothing but proactive cases will carry Glendale 1 caseload for the next probably 6 to 8, maybe even 12 months, but that their number of Glendale 1 cases will reduce over that time, allowing for more proactive activity. I think that sets the table for the conversation, so I will stop and allow council to ask questions.
Councilmember Melner.
Thank you. Thanks for that report. The 75% number sounds very impressive, and one of my questions was, when can you reach it? And it sounds like you have set the goal of a couple of months. That's very aggressive, and I hope we can achieve that, because that is awesome. It really is. I have just some general questions that maybe you can ask. I mean, the purpose of this workshop is to determine whether or not we should change the number of cases that an individual can submit in a week. So my question would be, if we were to go back to the 5 cases per week, what impact would that have on the department, and what changes would you need to make based on the plans you have to get to that 75%?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Malnar, I'll talk about the odds, because we don't really know exactly what would occur if we increased to 5 cases per week. The odds are that a very few number of people would actually take advantage of that and submit 5 cases per week. So the increase in caseload may be somewhere between 12 to 15 cases per week, which I think could be managed by the 3 inspectors that we have working reactive cases. The risk, there may be more people that take advantage of that opportunity, and we may see such an increase in Glendale 1 that we now have to pull another inspector from the 9, leaving 8 and 8 grids and making 4 inspectors plus 5 senior inspectors that are working out of Glendale 1. So there's a little bit of risk there, but the odds are, because we ran this for 4 years, from 2020 to 2024, and we only had 6 to 8 people that were submitting high numbers of cases. And I would presume that that wouldn't change if we moved it back.
Okay, thank you. A few more questions, if I may, Vice Mayor.
Sure.
You talked about the percentages of proactive versus, my question has to do with the number of cases that a inspector can complete in a day. Is there any difference between the proactive versus the complaint-driven
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Malnar, the only difference would be travel time. So most of the inspector's proactive cases are on a given street or maybe adjacent streets, but their grids are large. And so their reactive cases might force them to have to drive a mile or 2 away from where all their other inspections are to do that one inspection. So one inspection can take 25, 30 minutes to complete, when you could have done 5 or 6 inspections in that same time period because of the adjacencies of those inspections.
Okay, thank you.
And currently, an inspector does, on average, 15 inspections per day.
Okay, and is it about, and that would change, I guess, depending on if it were a proactive versus a complaint-driven?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Malnar, yes, I believe so.
Okay. Thank you. That answers that question too. On the proactive cases, and Tasha might be able to answer this better. How many times per year do you anticipate that a code inspector would be visiting a specific neighborhood within a year, based on the proactive getting to that 75%? No, I think your speaker's off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah.
Okay, good. So right now, we anticipate that the inspector will be able to get to that property about 3 times a year roughly. Based on the numbers and their proactive inspections, looking at the different territories, they should be able to reach that property at least 3 times a year. And that's a minimum. That's not including re-inspections for current open cases.
Okay, so based on that 3 times, and if they are within that year, I believe our repeat offender ordinance talks about doing it, something repeated within 3 times within a 12-month period. So it would catch the repeat offender. Let's say that they were cited, they fixed the problem, they were cited, when I say cited, they were noticed, that they had not given a citation. But then on that 3rd time, they would have that, and you have documentation in your system now to be able to say, this guy, this is the 3rd time I've had to go out and talk to him about his parking on his property. So this is going directly to a citation. Is that, am I accurate in saying that that's how it would be run?
Yes, Councilmember Brenner, you are correct. If we've issued a notice of violation citation, or we've taken an abatement action on a property 3 times within a year, that property owner or that responsible party will be cited as a repeat offender. That is a code violation of the Glendale Municipal Code. In our system currently right now, Clarity, we are highlighting the cases, so we are aware if that person is a repeat offender or whatnot, and we are issuing citations for that.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor, can I provide some additional there?
Of course.
I want to make sure it doesn't get lost in that the repeat offender violation is its own charge. So on top of whatever violations exist on the property that are cited for, whether it's parking or items stored in public view or whatever, they would have the additional charge of being a repeat offender, which holds a different penalty.
Oh, okay, thank you for clarifying that. And just to clarify on that point, when a person is determined to be a repeat offender, my understanding is that when the inspector goes out, they get an automatic citation that 3rd time, not a warning. Is that correct or not correct?
Councilman Mauner, you are correct. They will receive a citation as a repeat offender, and we will cite them for any other violations observed at the property.
Okay, thank you. I think I have just a couple more questions. And this maybe goes into another issue that has to do with the reason we're here today, having to do with parking. And I know we've had discussions in the past about code compliance officers being able to issue citations only on private property, but not on public streets. I would like to see us kind of move that into some discussion if we would like to see our code compliance officers be able to do that. And there may be reasons why we can't. There may be legal reasons and official, having an officer of the PD actually do those kind of things. Can you kind of talk about that briefly?
Yes, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Melnar, our code inspectors and senior inspectors do have the ability to write parking citations for public roadways. They do have that ability. When cases on street parking are entered into Glendale 1, they default to the traffic unit of the police department that has a parking enforcement team specific to roadways. So we oftentimes in code work directly with that team. They know the street parking laws better than we do. So sometimes we might look at something and say, yeah, that looks like a violation. The expert comes out and says, no, that doesn't meet the definition of a commercial vehicle, for example, so it is allowed to be parked there. And we've had that happen on a number of occasions, I'd say. But the direction I've given Tasha and her team is if you're out on a property inspecting the property for violations and you see, for example, an inoperable vehicle parked in front of the property, include that in the notice of violation. You don't need to call the police department over just to deal with that one vehicle. Keep it under one case, work the entire case all the way through, write the citations or gain compliance, and we don't need to be sending that information to the police department when we're there proactively observing it.
Okay, thank you. That's an excellent clarification. I'm happy to see that our code our code officers can do that. Well, last question has to do with the bulk trash, because I get a lot of complaints. And again, the reason I bring these up because some of these, the reason for this is because some people that are more proactive in looking at complaints in their neighborhood, one of the complaints that comes up a lot is bulk trash, and there's some confusion as to how the bulk trash complaint should go in, who is responsible for it, and who takes action on it.
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Malnar, bulk trash violations through Glendale 1 are routed to Michelle Wotanko's team in sanitation. So they have inspectors that go out and handle these types of violations entered in through Glendale 1. We in code proactively, if we see a bulk trash violation during an inspection, we don't call sanitation in to work it. We just work it ourselves as part of the case.
Okay, if I may, Vice Mayor, I know I'm going long here.
Go ahead, that's all right.
But I want to clarify that. Then, so if it comes through Glendale 1, do you consider it one of those two cases that a person can, and it is a trash violation?
Vice Mayor,
bulk trash?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Malnar, no, it is not considered a code violation. It's considered a violation of sanitation.
Okay, so you don't count it as one of those two that is allowed currently?
Correct.
Okay, that clarifies that. All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. That's all I had.
Okay, Councilmember Turner.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This whole code thing is sometimes frustrating, and even here in workshops to deal with. I know when I came on the council 11 years ago, I don't know that we had but maybe 2 or 3 code inspectors at the time. And we have, as a council, I think we've generously added to the budget for code enforcement to increase the number of inspectors that we have, and of course, everything that it takes to make an inspector effective with vehicles and staff support and all of that. My observations aside, I often hear from residents that we don't seem to be any better off than we were back then. And I know that would be very frustrating to hear if I were in that department myself, because I know they do their work. They, I don't know if the situation is getting worse and we're not keeping up with it, or what's going on. But let's acknowledge it's got to be a frustrating job to have. It's got to be a frustrating job to supervise. And I think it's one of the more frustrating aspects of our job is to dealing with the code and the way our residents want our neighborhoods to look, which is a very important quality of life, and I think it's important to all of us. So acknowledging that frustration, I am pleased to learn that we have 3 inspectors that are working citywide on the non-proactive cases, and they're doing it in a flexible, manner. I think that's probably a good way to handle it, so that the grid inspectors can more systematically work their way through the grids neighborhood by neighborhood and try to more evenly apply the code. One of the things we don't want is for our code to be a tool, a weapon that's used, between neighbors or differentially in one part of town to another part of town. And that's one of the, the equal justice type issues that we have to deal with. But I would suspect, from my observation, there are more code enforcement, more code issues in some parts of town than there are in others. And I happen to appreciate volunteers, and that would even be neighbors who are trying to improve their neighborhood by using what we have set up for them. That's a code department and a Glendale 1 and all of that. I had reservations about limiting when we did, but I thought it was something we could try for a while and see if it makes impacts things better. I'm not yet convinced that limiting is doing that, particularly when we have these inspectors that can float throughout the community to address hotspots or specific types of issues that maybe occur more in one community than in one part of our community than another. Keeping in mind that some parts of our community have homeowners associations that also work, enforcing their regulations that are very similar to our code. And what's tolerable or what's attempted in some neighborhoods is different than what's attempted to get away with in others. So I'm not sure that part of me says we're making progress even if we're not visibly noticing it. I'd like to have data that could back that up, but I'm not exactly seeing it. It's not found in the number. I don't think the data is the number of inspections we do or the number of officers we have. I think it's more in how do people feel about their neighborhood and that quality of life feeling that they have for it, kind of, as one might say, the happiness index. I guess the question I have, and there may not be data at this point to go one way or the other with it, but what would your impression be of the complaints that are entered through Glendale 1 as compared to what a code inspector is seeing? Is there a large difference between the accuracy or the accuracy of a complaint that comes through Glendale 1 as opposed to what an inspector might see driving through their grid? Because by what I've seen come through our emails from residents that I know that are active on Glendale 1, it's like, I'm not sure they're wrong about their complaint. So what's the deal? Are they volunteer inspectors out there doing a good job and helping us, or are they sending us on wild goose chases?
Thank you, Councilmember Melner.
Turner.
Councilmember Turner.
Easily confused.
Sorry about that. No, a lot of the constituents that make complaints for different violations in the city of Glendale, they are accurate. What we're finding is that when the inspectors are going out there and responding to the complaints, a lot of times our inspectors already have open cases for those concerns. So they'll issue notices for high grass and weeds, trash and debris. Constituents will call in and make a complaint, but our inspector a lot of times is already aware. So we try to update the constituents. We have notifications that go out in the system, so they're aware that a case is open and action is being taken. But for the most part, the constituents are accurate. They're right. They can see that there's high grass and weeds, it's above 6 inches or whatnot. There's grass and weeds growing through, the rock. There's dirt front yards, or the tree limbs are dying. They're aware and they're right. They're accurate. Based on the data, from August 11th to current, only 34 of the cases that we've dealt with did not have violations. So meaning we went out there wasn't an actual violation. It may have been something that we need to monitor, but like I said, out of working 2,300 cases or so far, in the last 2 months, only 34 weren't a violation. So that tells you that the constituents are correct. And like I said, we are aware. If we're not aware we're getting to that property, we have the rover inspectors that will address that complaint. And then the other situations, we already have an open case. And so we are taking an action, we are aware.
And if I could follow up.
Sure.
So thank you, Vice Mayor, when a constituent uses Glendale 1 and files their complaint, what kind of feedback are they getting if it's confirmed there was a complaint, or if it's confirmed that it's already an open case, or that there was no violation at the time of the inspection, because some violations can be more transient than tall weeds, parking issues and things like that. What feedback do the constituents get?
Sure, council members. So our constituents are aware that a case is open. They will get a notification that a case has been open. They will have the inspector's name and a phone number where to reach them if they have any questions. They will also be alerted as to the status, if the case is open, closed, needs to be monitored or whatnot. So that feedback is sent to the constituents. They're also made aware of when that case is closed. So if they have any concerns, they can always reach out to us, for other information about that case. But like I said, for the most part, it's a notification alerting you as to the inspector that you can call with questions with their phone number, and you get a status for that case.
Thank you. That's all I've got at the moment.
Okay. Anyone else? Are you pointing at him? Okay. Councilmember Boldenegro. I see two
Thank you,
hands
Vice Mayor.
moving.
I just have one question. Thank you for the information. I just have one question. Can anybody that doesn't necessarily live within the city limits of Glendale place a complaint in Glendale 1, or is there some sort of verification process so that we're not getting, for lack of a better way of saying, like a rogue inspector volunteer?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Baldenegro, you don't have to live in the city of Glendale to use Glendale 1. There was an instance where we had a Peoria resident filing a high number of complaints in Glendale. So as part of the administrative decision back in March of 2023, we suggested that the complaint that you're complaining about has to be a certain distance from where you live. So if we've got a Phoenix resident, for example, that's looking across Camelback into the Ocotillo district and there are blight violations, we wouldn't turn those down. But if somebody was living at 67th and Peoria and complaining on the Peoria side and complaining about something happening at 67th and Bell Road, that's where we would say, okay, where's your interest in this?
And
Go ahead.
just one follow-up comment. And I know it's the inspectors have a thankless job. I've met a few of them, and every time I see them, I just walk out with them and shake their hands and, man, I know you guys have it rough. I know you guys have it very, very rough. And so to all of them, if they're listening, thank you for everything they do on a daily basis. It is a rough, thankless job. It's important, and so don't ever think that it's not that we take it for granted. We all get the emails, we all get the phone calls, and we all understand that it's just one of those jobs that has to be done, and we appreciate them, that they do it every single day with professionalism, and just really, really the customer service that's always been given. It's always been excellent. So thank you again.
Councilmember Guzman.
I had a question on, when a citation is issued, that would automatically generate a court date, right?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, yes.
Okay. So if they don't appear at the court date and they're still in violation of whatever the citation was, like, their yard, what happens?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, for civil citations, the case would be held in absentia, which means the defendant's not there to make a statement, but the state's going to proceed with the case. Typically, you get a good finding when you go in absentia because there's no one to argue against what you're saying. If it's a criminal case and they fail to appear, that's another criminal charge for failing to appear at the court. And so that would generate a warrant for arrest and be handled by the Glendale Police Department.
How many of those have we had in this last year?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, I'll defer to Tasha for the exact numbers, but I don't know that we've issued any criminal citations in 2025. I think everything's been civil.
Councilmember Guzman, I have to get back to you. I can reach out to the prosecutor to get those numbers. Right now, I'm showing that we've issued 7 civil citations this year, but I do not have an accurate accounting for criminal citations.
Okay. And the other thing is, all of the information that you were giving to us in the beginning, Mr. St. John's, could we get that on paper? That would have made a great presentation.
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, yes, I can provide that.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Conchas.
Hello. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to express my concern about the policy that limits residents' code compliance to Glendale 1. While I understand the intent to help staff manage workload and stay proactive, I believe this restriction sends the wrong message. Glendale 1 was created to empower residents to partner with the city, not to limit their ability to improve their neighborhoods. And my office regularly uses Glendale 1 system. I drive around the Cactus District at least once or twice a week, checking on streets, parks, public spaces, and also code compliance, potential code compliance violations in the neighborhoods. I also notify the city of Phoenix all the time of things that I see on the other side of 43rd Avenue, as my district goes all the way north to Peoria and south to Camelback. I believe that instead of restricting people, we should strengthen our code compliance system, provide the support that you all need, review our staffing levels, improve our technology, and build better partnerships with the active residents and the neighborhood leaders. As we prepare to welcome our next city manager, I think that it's the right time to take a fresh look at how we handle code enforcement and the code enforcement department to make it more efficient, transparent, and community-driven. Because at the end of the day, our residents aren't the problem. They're our best allies in making Glendale better. And I don't know of any other city service will restrict the number of times that a resident can contact us. For example, we don't tell residents that they can only contact the city council office twice a week. Or an exaggerated, very exaggerated example is limiting the amount of times a resident can call 911 for service. And then also, I guess my question is, this is only limiting Glendale 1 request. I know that in the city charter in Article 2, Section 18, when it comes to our voting meetings and our regular meetings, it says that any citizen of the city may appear before the council at any regular meeting and present a request. The council shall take action or direct that action to be taken on such request within 30 days. So if somebody has more than 2 or more than 5 code complaint violations, could they show up to a regular meeting and present these requests during public comment, and then we would be required to address it within 30 days?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Colchis, I'll go a step further in that we wouldn't require them to come to a public meeting and make a public statement. If they contact us directly in the code division about a very specific complaint or something they have a concern about, then we will handle that.
Anyone else?
Vice Mayor?
Yes. Go ahead, Councilmember
Thank
Turner.
you. So, in reading the staff report for this agenda item today, it says that staff is bringing forward a conversation with the mayor and council. Well, we've had that conversation, it seems like, but is staff looking for a recommendation, a reconsideration of the number of cases that the public can submit? So we've talked, but we haven't changed anything. What would staff like at this point?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Turner, it was an administrative decision made by Mr. Phelps back in March of 2023. If this council wanted to provide Mr. Phelps a different direction, then that's the relationship that you have with your manager.
Thank you, Mr. St. John. So that's why I brought it forward, Councilmember Turner, is that we've got 3 council members that were not on the council when the decision was made. It wasn't actually a decision that the council, I believe there was a consensus of the council that supported the decision. But that's the reason I brought it back, is to have the discussion and see if we wanted to make a recommendation. We can't vote here, obviously. Make a recommendation to make changes.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah.
Since the request came on,
Please.
Here's what my recommendation would be. We've got new leadership within code enforcement. Clearly, from the data showing Tasha, some of the things she's changing is putting this on a very good path. What I would say, because she believes she can start reaching some of her stated goals here in the next several months, is I would schedule a recheck in, perhaps towards the tail end of February, early March, see how she's doing on the things that she's implementing, provide you the additional data. You'll have, the new city manager will be in place, which you need to get, obviously he needs to be understanding and kind of where the council's at. And I would then at that time readdress the policy. Thus far, the number, the implementation is making significant progress based on from when we first had, or last had this conversation. So if you're asking for a staff recommendation would be to allow Tasha to continue to implement the changes she's putting on board, where we have not only just the 3 grid, but the 5. I think there was a statement saying we only had 3 working on the non-proactive. We have actually 8 doing that, and then we have 9 that are assigned strictly to proactive. Allow that to play out for the next 60 to 90 days, come back, see what the data is to support it, and then craft your, kind of your desire and your policy based on that data. And that would be my recommendation.
Did you have anything else, Councilmember Turner?
I'm comfortable with that recommendation, because I do think it's important to let the department do some work on this. If we could do that, maybe if this could be scheduled for a workshop again in the first workshop in March, then also if there's any budgetary requests that
That's
it would be soon enough, I think, for us to consider budget and for it to get included. Not saying that you're going to get anything, but just saying, not making any promises, just saying that we would have time to hear and consider the requests that might occur.
Thank you. Anybody else? I do have a couple questions if everybody else has asked their question. What hours do, because a lot of the emails we get are about parking issues. And parking, especially if the people don't have enough parking spaces in their driveway or even in the street, in their neighborhood, there's a lot of pictures that I get about people parking in front yards. It's not a problem in my district, but I feel strongly about, and I know I've had these conversations, I think, with everyone, that, you know, we adopt these ordinances into our code, and by that, we've created a covenant with the community that these are the things we're going to do to protect your property value. And so it's important that we follow through on the things we told the resident, we're going to do this to protect your property values. So, but parking violations, I understand. The cars can be moved. They're gone during the day when people are working. So can you explain, you know, when you know where there's issues with a lot of, I can tell you, I know Councilor Melner can tell you, Councilor Turner, there's some areas of the city where parking's a real problem. Parking in yards, parking lots of cars, looks like a parking lot in front of the house. Do we stagger the inspections so we can actually, because I've seen a lot of times the inspector goes out there, they don't see the violation because everybody's gone during the day, school, work, wherever they go, and they don't see the violation. So that's kind of the hamster wheel where we just can't actually cite them.
Vice Mayor Tomachow, our inspectors work Monday through Saturday. So they're here 6:30 to 5 Monday through Friday, and they also work those hours on Saturday. Now, when the need arises, our inspectors will work late or either come in the morning, you know, to do an inspection to see if there's a violation. We also have staff that works on Saturdays, and they will also check that property for the parking concerns. When the constituent lets us know when it's primarily happening, we kind of make a point to go out there and check during that times if we can. So we do try and be to be accessible to the constituents to check to see if there's violations such as parking during, you know, different hours.
Thank you for that. Do we stagger some of the inspectors, especially the proactive ones? I mean, the ones that are not proactive, the ones that are responding to Glendale 1 complaints, where they're maybe working, you know, I don't know, 9 to 8 or whatever, moving them start later and work later so that they are seeing things that you're not seeing, you know, by being finished with inspections. And if they work till 5, I don't know what time they stop inspections, but I know there's paperwork to be prepared at the end of the day every day. So they're not necessarily out in the field to the close of business. But I mean, if we're going to bring this back, I'd like to have that be part of the discussion, that we maybe, and it could be rolling. I know nobody probably wants to work that second shift, but, you know, have a certain, maybe one person work a later shift to be able to see some of the things that you're not seeing when you're finished in the field by 3 or 4 o'clock. So you're out there. I think that's important. I don't know if everybody understands, is that it's a 1 mile radius. So is it a mile in every direction from wherever you live or work that you can file a code complaint?
Vice Mayor, yes.
Okay. Because I know even for myself, I drive past things coming back and forth in the city that are outside. I live where there's an HOA, but I still care when I see, you know, I mean, I gave my new assistant a tour of the district. I saw things in city right-of-way around other areas of the city that are not within a mile of where I live, but I see them, and I feel like that if a resident sees something going to and from the store or going to and from a friend's house or wherever they're seeing it, I think it's still valid for them to be able to report it, though, even though it's not within a mile of their house. So, because you can, often you see repeated violations. I know coming down 59th Avenue, you know, I mean, some of those houses have had obvious code violations that have been going on for years. That, you know, with weeds and the, you know, I know they're not in compliance with our ordinance. So, but probably part of the problem is nobody lives within a mile of there has reported them.
Vice Mayor, we have our proactive inspectors, and they are assigned to that territory. So they're going house by house, issuing notices of violation when violations are present. There are some properties on 59th Avenue that are in violation. Some of them our vacant properties where we address the high grass and weeds, trash and debris, or make them secure so that nobody can gain entry. Like I said, when violations happen outside of our hours, the inspector will show up early or either stay late to check that. We also check like lighting concerns. Some neighbors complain about the lights from the shopping plaza, are, they're too bright in their area. So we will go out there in the nighttime and check it. We will also come in the morning to check for that. And like I said, we also have staff that work Saturday that will check for those other parking concerns, yard sales and whatnot, just to be available.
How often do we, thank you for that, how often do we clean and lean?
So, Vice Mayor,
Go ahead.
I can look at my report, give me just a second. So as of August 11th of this year till now, we've done 8 clean and leans for properties in the city of Glendale.
Okay, that's the only thing we can really do to address a vacant property is do it ourselves and lean the house, and when it closes, somebody has to pay for it.
Vice Mayor, correct. And we have, through the prosecutor's office, started an initiative to do occupied abatements. So houses that are occupied where the person is refusing to abate the violations, we're sometimes getting a court order, other times working in cooperation with the homeowner who's inviting us and our contractors onto the property to clean the property and lien their house. We have one case right now where the individual is not cooperative. And so with Mr. Bailey and his team, we're working through that process of getting the court order that allows for us to take a little more aggressive action on that property.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I appreciate that because the people that live on that street, they don't want it. It affects their property values, and it's the broken window theory. It begins to spread, and I think that probably the biggest thing that begins to spread is these parking issues because people see somebody doing it, and then they think they can do it, and it becomes a real problem. So, I think I didn't like the idea of restricting the residents' ability to report more than 2 violations a week. I think probably part of the problem was us allowing people to stack the 5, we'd accept 20 complaints even though they were only allowed 5. The fact that we don't allow stacking anymore, I think probably resolves the biggest problem with that previous policy is that once you've hit your 5 or 2 or whatever we decide to do, you can't make any more complaints that week. You're gonna have to wait till next week. So, and maybe we could set a number for the maximum number allowed per month. You can do 5 a week if you happen to be seeing a lot of stuff, but maybe you can only do, 15 a month or something like that. So it keeps it from the system from being overwhelmed, because I understand we don't want to overwhelm the code inspectors, but we also have a responsibility to deliver the services and that we told people we were going to protect their property values. So that's important, really important. We want to, we're working on the right of way, we're working on, parks, we're trying to make our city more appealing. And part of that is what the residential streets look like that people live on or raising their families on. So I guess my issue with coming back in 90 days is that we just instituted a policy that we can only bring things back in after 18 months. So I don't know how that would work because we'd have to wait 18 months to bring it back because this is an item of special interest.
Vice Mayor, I think what the staff has the ability to schedule items and bring forth in addition to the council item of special interest process. What will establish this is just internally that we want to come back and brief and give a progress report to the council somewhere late February, early March on this issue with new data. So we can do that internally from a staff.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, the other option we have, since it's your council item of special interest, we can just leave that open. And through our tracking sheet, I can include information that says that we're set for another workshop, the first workshop of March 2026.
Okay.
That's another option. But
Well, I know, and this wasn't something like in a council item where there was no consensus to move it forward, or, we haven't actually really done anything other than had a discussion. So but I just want to make sure that, I'm following the rules with my council items of special interest also. I'm okay with bringing it back, but I would like also to know, I know you had mentioned to some of us anyway, that maybe it was to the whole council, about that you're now moving away from Glendale 1 as a way to tracking things in the code department, that they were deploying some new software or something. Could that be part of, basically like a whole code overview, and then if we wanted to have a discussion about changing any of our policies? But I'd like to have a better understanding of, what kind of technology and other things you're implementing in the department, so that we can, as Councilmember Turner said, have a better idea of what do we want as far as what the residents should have access to, but what do you need in order to deliver the service out in the community?
Vice Mayor, yes, of course, we can include all that information.
Okay. Councilmember Conchas?
Yes, so I have some suggestions, but you may already be doing this, so please let me know. For some proactive education, so of course we have our water bills, so maybe kind of like a myth-busting kind of quiz on what is a code violation, what isn't, to do a little bit more education for our residents so that they know what it is that we're looking for and what standards they need to abide by. Also, I have the suggestion of having a new homeowner's welcome letter, so whenever someone purchases a home or a property in Glendale, that we use automation in order to send them a welcome letter, and also letting them know about what are the code standards and where to find them, and also how to use all of our other city services as well. So I'm not sure if those are already in place. And then what I heard, Mr. St. John, if you can clarify, is that between the limit of 2 reports in Glendale 1 and 5 reports in Glendale 1 per week, that there was essentially no difference in terms of staffing and capacity. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Conchas, that's the odds. The odds are that if we increase to 5, we wouldn't see a huge influx of cases that would require additional staffing. You'd probably see a pretty small percentage would be my guess. But again, there's risk, because I could be wrong.
I understand. And the last point that I'll make for today is that in terms of the staff report that we received, it says community benefit / public involvement. It says the community benefits from efficient government operations. And I think that when we start to put those types of things like efficient government operations, that's to make the city's life easier. And our motto is that we work to improve the lives of the people that we serve every day. So I believe that if we do have another one of these, that we need a better explanation of the community benefit that includes more of how our residents are going to benefit from it, not how the government will. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought I heard something. Go ahead, Councilmember Guzman.
Just one more.
In the beginning,
Okay.
when you first began to tell us about the code, you said that, and just clarify this, that the reason that we went from 5 to 2 was because there was a certain amount of residents that were continuously putting in large amounts of code violations. Is that correct?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, that is correct, yes.
Okay. I'm just curious, those same residents, are they still putting in code violations?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, I believe so. There's one that kind of falls on and off the radar, depending on I'm guessing what's going on in their lives. So I don't know if that one particular person is still entering 2 cases a week, or maybe has gone silent for a few months. I don't know.
So we would change a policy just because of one resident? I'm just asking.
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, it would be to benefit a small handful, I'd say maybe 4 or 5.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Are you finished? Councilmember Melnar.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Part of I think, bringing it back is, our reporting. I know we've talked about the reports that you can generate. I think it's really important that we see some ongoing reporting that show these numbers, what's happening, where it's going, and that kind of thing. So I'd like to see that sent out from the department, or maybe it's where we need to have our assistants do that, pull that report. But I think that's really important, because I haven't really seen that report, at least for my district, on a regular basis, and I'd like to see that. Regarding the education part, I think that's a very important part of this. And I know some time ago I asked if we needed to put some more money into your budget for education. And at the time you'd said, you know, I think we can handle it with what we have. But I think this is really important in our next budget year, that we look at code education, because I think a lot of the residents out there don't intentionally. They kind of see what happens is one neighbor does something they're not supposed to, and then the next neighbor says, oh, I guess that's okay to do that. But if we have a good education program, they know better. And I think it'll overall improve the city if we can really bump up the way we educate our public on code compliance issues. For example, there's not very much in our annual calendar that we send out. Maybe we take the backside of the calendar or something and list, you know, what are the main code violations that are happening, and that we need to make sure that people understand that.
Councilmember Guzman.
Okay. Councilmember Milner, you said that something about the numbers of the grid. Something about the numbers of the grid. Are we able, as the council member, to get a report that shows what violations are in whatever grid we are in our particular district?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, there is a business intelligence report that's created. I believe it's monthly. Is that correct?
Yes.
That looks at the city as a whole. On the left side and on the right side, you can drill down deeper into just your district or adjacencies. You can adjust timelines. So you can look at everything that's been opened in the last 3 months or just the last month. And I believe all the assistants have access to that report.
Oh, okay. So just ask the assistants to get it for you. Okay.
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, it's a hyperlink to our business intelligence platform that they go through.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I do have one more question on the bulk trash issue. So that's not a code violation especially because the reason I'm asking is because there are repeat offenders with putting out bulk trash at the wrong time. Sometimes it's out there for weeks. So give me the rundown on how a complaint for bulk trash too early, what happens with that?
Vice Mayor, if the complaint is entered through Glendale 1, then a bulk trash inspector is assigned the case. They go out, do the inspection, serve the appropriate notices, issue citations if they have to, pretty much the same process that code follows. And they are not considered violations that go to the code division. They're city code violations, but the code division doesn't enforce that section of the code. We have separate inspectors that do that, if that makes sense. So you can enter a dozen bulk trash violations if you want.
Okay, but how do we treat repeat offenders? That's why I'm asking, because we only have the repeat offender when it comes to code. So,
Vice Mayor, I would have to go back and look at the language that we wrote. My hope is we wrote language that said any violation of the code within a 12-month period, 3 times. So bulk trash would fall within that. I would just need to work with Michelle and her team to get them up to speed on the program and how we're managing it in the code division, allowing them to manage it for themselves.
okay.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah.
We'll add that on, and we'll ask Michelle and her team to join in the next workshop on this item, and then get a chance to kind of see if there's some policy changes needed in that end.
Okay, all right, yeah, a lot of people just refuse to remember or don't care when they're supposed to put it out, so, thank you. Councilor Conchas.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. So just to clarify, did you say that if you can put in unlimited bulk trash complaints into Glendale 1, but not code violations?
Vice Mayor, Councilmember Conchas, yes, code is the only division in Glendale 1 that has a limitation. There aren't any other limitations in Glendale 1.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we've covered this topic. I think we're ready to move on. Let's move on to the city manager's report.
Okay, we'll roll our next weekly report. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Halloween's right around the corner, and we have plenty of sweet updates to share. First up, some big news for sports fans. Dick's House of Sport just opened in Glendale's Sports and Entertainment District, and it's the first one in Arizona. They not only offer retail, but also interactive experiences like a rock climbing wall, golf hitting bays, and cages to practice baseball, softball, soccer, and other sports. They even have an outdoor field and track. Located near Loop 101 and Maryland Avenue, this new destination will add even more excitement to our entertainment district. We are thrilled to recognize our 41 Employee Success Factors Excellence Award winners and 16 runners-up. These employees were nominated for going above and beyond their regular job duties. The award recognizes innovation, teamwork, leadership, and more. Winners receive a $1,500 bonus, and runners-up earn $200. It's one of the ways we celebrate the incredible people who make Glendale great. Speaking of going above and beyond, great job to Emergency Management Specialist Madison Rabicki, who stepped up to support a neighboring city recovering from severe flooding. Through the Arizona Mutual Aid Compact, Glendale partners with other cities, towns, counties, and tribal nations to share resources during emergencies. After severe flooding struck Globe in late September, Maddie answered the call. She served as their emergency manager, helping coordinate response and recovery efforts and providing vital support to their community. The experience she gained will help strengthen Glendale's emergency management efforts moving forward. Our public safety community came together for the annual Salute to Service ceremony at Glendale's Public Safety Memorial. They honored the brave firefighters and police officers who have died in the line of duty. Their courage, sacrifice, and service will never be forgotten. I'm excited to welcome our new Director of Intergovernmental Programs, Jenna Carrico. She brings more than a decade of experience working with state and local leaders to serve the West Valley. She most recently led government affairs for the city of Goodyear and previously worked in Peoria and at the Arizona State Capitol. Her knowledge, experience, and relationship building skills will help our city strengthen partnerships and continue serving our community. An internationally acclaimed ramen restaurant is setting up shop in Glendale's Westgate Entertainment District. Mensho has captivated ramen enthusiasts worldwide with its inventive takes on traditional Japanese ramen. The restaurant is focused on sustainability, house-made noodles, and premium ingredients. Their decision to open in Glendale says a lot about our city's growing reputation as a go-to spot for incredible dining. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with more updates.
Thank you, Mr. Faust. City Attorney, do you have a report?
No report, thank you.
Thank you. Council items of special interest. Councilmember Baldonegro.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have one. It come to my attention a while back, and it was confirmed earlier today at an emergency meeting that I don't know exactly how long ago, but we had a, for lack of a better way of saying it, like a small two-person team that helped specifically for downtown cleanliness, picking up trash, emptying up the canisters, maybe doing some spot power washing here or there. I'd like to see if that's something that we could look into getting back again. Again, this is something that I had heard through the grapevine through several merchants and other residents. I just want to see if we can look into what it would take to get that back again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Conchas.
Yes, Vice Mayor. I have two today. The first one will be the council item of special interest to ask the city to look into the Are You OK program. This is from a resident named Sharon in the Palm Shadows Mobile Home Park. She said, recently I noticed my neighbor's car was gone and so was he. I found out 23 weeks later that he passed away. If I hadn't questioned his whereabouts, this might have gone unnoticed. It says many of the residents here at Palm Shadows are 55 and older, have health issues. Some don't even get visitors from family or friends. I'm one of the lucky ones who, as a stroke survivor, is in constant contact with my family. However, that does not negate the fact that I am alone most of the day, as my family members are all at work. And then she sent me a quote that from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office that they offer a free automated telephone service to help keep and this is in Sun City seniors residents safe through the Are You OK program. Participants receive phone calls from MCSO at a designated time each day to check on their status. If no one answers the phone after several tries, MCSO deputies drive to the home to check on the resident. The program is limited to residents of Maricopa County and those living within the boundaries of Sun City. And obviously, I know that there's a lot of different complicated parts to this in terms of budget, staffing, who would be responsible for it, and also understanding that the city of Glendale is a lot bigger than Sun City. So I'm just asking for my council item of special interest to start exploring this, and I have spoken to City Manager Phelps and Deputy City Manager Rick St. John. Thank you. That's that one. And then the second one, I mentioned it earlier, that we had an amazing ribbon cutting ceremony at the Cascalote Senior Apartment Homes. It was really great that I got a tour, firsthand tour from some of the residents into their apartment homes to see the different types of layouts. But when I talked to the residents in the common area and had a conversation with them, they mentioned to me that the current Gus the Bus stop is at 48th Avenue in Myrtle, and that's about maybe 2 street blocks north of the Cascalote apartments, and a lot of them have service dogs, wheelchairs, mobility issues, and then they use a lot of them use the Gus the Bus for shopping, so bringing back groceries and things like that as well. So my council item of special interest is if we can ask the city manager and staff to review the Gus the Bus route and to consider adding Cascalote Senior Apartments, but also with the flexibility to potentially add other stops as needed or change stops as well. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Conchas. Councilmember Guzman.
Not at this time.
Councilmember Melner.
Nothing today.
Councilmember Turner.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have a couple of things. One, I would like staff to prepare a presentation for the council regarding water and sewer service line protection plans. Several of our neighboring cities and cities around the west and across the country provide that option for residents, and I think it's worthy of our consideration. And the second item would be in conjunction, and it occurred to me during our conversation about code enforcement and all of that, that the city of Glendale used to have a Glendale Commission on Neighborhoods. And I believe during the recession and money was tight, that there was no money available for that commission to work with, and we ended up disbanding it in the early years of my term of service. But I wonder if perhaps staff could present either in person or through a memo a synopsis of what the previous Glendale Commission on Neighborhoods and what kinds of things they did for neighborhood improvement and to help residents that needed help complying with the code, sort of as an alternative to the heavy-handed approach, neighbors helping neighbors approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Turner. I don't have anything. There being no further business, this workshop meeting is adjourned.